Dude, not a leaf blower. Out.
I know, isn't it great?
This is awesome. All right,
Yeah, we absolutely love it up here. It is.
All right,
awesome.
so let's see if we can get to. We're gonna put us there. All right.
Okay.
All right, we got.
Scoot over a little bit.
Yeah. Let's see if we got anyone on here yet. All right, so let's. I want to go here. Let me go to
mic test.
To watch now. All right, so if you guys can hear us, if we can't, we'll just take the mic off. Yeah. Sometimes I've had issues with it.
I wonder if I can I jump over there and just check it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally, yeah. Man. Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me? Vanessa, can you hear me by chance? Give me a thumbs up if you could, please. Good afternoon, Dana. What's going on in Maine, brother man? Can thumbs up on the sound? Hey, sound is good. All right, cool. Thanks, Vanessa. All right, so we got right on, man. All right, so
I got to hear live.
Cool.
I can turn that on. I'll get y'all jacked up.
All right, so I'm not sure I want the. I'm not sure if I want the. Fritz, I'm not sure if I want that guy sitting right in front of your. Yeah, what do you think? That sounds so bad, is it?
That works. Yeah, that works.
All right, so Dana's coming in from Maine. Vanessa, where are you coming in from? Ray's coming in from Texas. Henry, Carl's coming in from North Carolina.
Hey, Rob.
Rob's coming from Worcester, Mass. Sound is good, right on. Cool. Okay, cool. So we got a mic check. And tell you what, Fritz, before we do anything, I'm going to show folks, make sure I don't screw the mic.
I can walk with you with this if you'd like.
Oh,
you want to?
That's fine.
We can take a walk through we'll walk through the thing if you want to later. Yeah. You want to do it before we start?
I might as well.
All
right, so we're going to walk through Fritz's thing here. This is the Retirement Manifesto office, as you can see. There's Fritz, by the way.
Hey, all.
New York City's got Washington State. Mark's coming from Washington.
That's right, hey, Mark, I'm heading out your way next week, buddy. I got my daughter's in Tacoma, so we're heading out to pick her up.
Is that when you're going to Rapid City too next week?
Yeah, we're stopping in Rapid City, South Dakota on the way out. So.
Wait. That's literally I'm going to be.
We're driving.
Oh, driving right on.
Next week. Yeah, we'll be in Rapid City probably 10 days from now.
Okay, cool, man. So here's Fritz's garage / workshop, as you can see, where he does his woodworking, and he sets up. He builds for a volunteer because his wife Jackie, his better half, is his more handsome half, if you will.
She is indeed.
She does volunteer work for dogs, for rescue dogs, and Fritz builds dog houses. Yeah. And so here's his shop here, and here's his little army truck.
Yeah, I bought that when my book went #1. I figured, hey, you got to celebrate. It's fun.
That's cool, man. That's awesome. Let's just look outside here real quick.
All right.
And oops.
Stay out of your way.
Fritz, this is the epitome of professional right here. It doesn't get, look at that. Blue Ridge, Georgia right there.
That's our front yard. There's our fire pit right there. Cabin's down this way. There you go. That's our cabin, my truck. There you go.
And
very nice.
And there's
our fifth wheel. We traveled 3 months last year out to the Pacific Northwest and spent the summer up in the Pacific Northwest. We spent this summer up in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan. A great way to live in retirement.
Tough life. Someone's got to live it. Tough life, though. That's for sure.
Tour's done.
We got a bunch of, and then we got behind us here. Let me just show you guys. Look at that. Look at that. Just beautiful nature. Don't tell my wife, but I just took a pee in the woods.
I took pictures. I'll post them later.
I know if you're asking if a bear poops in the woods, the answer is yes, but I did not do that. I'm too professional for that. All right, so let's get down to some serious business, Fritz. Jeez Louise, man. Trying to listen to my. Rob says he's trying to listen. Got my 1-year-old granddaughter today.
Oh, good luck with that, Rob.
You like this formal attire? Yes, I got a formal attire on. Normally it's just t-shirts, but
see, I really formal. Normally I'm just shorts and a t-shirt.
You got a
I got a t-shirt underneath it. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're messing up here in Blue Ridge, you got to get with the crew, which is you got to be very hoity-toity.
Pretty relaxed environment.
Yes,
up here,
sir. I was
say.
driving by and I saw a guy with lots of pickup trucks up here. Let's just put it this way.
Yeah, that's true.
And many a Trump sign, for sure. There are many a Trump sign.
This area was 90% Trump, I think, in the 2016 election.
Crazy.
Very, very red area, red part of the state.
Man, it just smells so good up here.
That's me.
Yeah.
So how'd your house hunting go today? You drove around some properties?
So I was gonna do some take some videos.
Yeah.
It's harder to do that on the out. It doesn't quite give the same. So what I did is I put my camera, my phone, and I was just looking at some properties to kind of share with people. Just you all can hear me if I'm still back here, and it just didn't have the same. I don't know. It wasn't like I was hoping for. So what I was hoping for is like say, okay, here's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot house, $300,000 to $250,000 on an acre of land. And it didn't work.
It didn't work.
Yeah, I was like, it's not what I was hoping for. Yeah. I got to get it like a GoPro or something like that on the phone. It doesn't work. And but I drove to town over here by the dam.
Morgantown.
Morgantown.
Yep.
Yeah, Morgantown or something like that.
That's where I swim. I'm swimming this afternoon, as a matter of fact, after we're done. Swimming in October.
When you swim, like at the
in
dam?
the lake.
Really?
Yeah, Lake Blue Ridge. Gorgeous lake.
You just jump in there?
Yeah, they got a nice big beach in Morganton. Morganton Point's probably a mile long, sand.
Like sandy beach?
It's paradise. Yeah, it's amazing.
Crazy.
Blue Ridge is paradise. Don't tell anybody.
So you can just go there and just hop on in and freaking freeze your tush off?
Yeah,
or what?
I swim until usually the end of October.
Man,
Usually
nice.
get in by April.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like a sandy beach on there?
Yeah.
Crazy.
There we go.
Is it? I mean, it's probably not gonna be that crowded then
Not
in
now.
October.
No. In the middle of summer, it gets busy.
Is
But
there-
I go on weekdays. That's the advantage of being retired, right?
Is there any waves or anything? Or what do
I
you?
mean, there can be if it's windy, but it's calm today. So
you just swim out to?
Yeah, swim. I do open water swimming. I mean, I get out there. I got like a big bright yellow inflatable thing that I pull behind me so boats can see me, and I swim across the lake and back. Yeah. Anyway,
Man.
okay. Who else we got?
Okay, you can hear you fine.
Dan.
Okay, cool.
Good.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that's Morganton or
Hey.
town.
Patty just got a GoPro 9. I heard the GoPro 9 is very good. I've heard about those. Yeah, Morganton's a nice town.
So Big E from Bernie, Texas, for where I used to live, says, Fritz, it looks like retirement really agrees with you.
It does indeed. It does.
All right. So Fritz on a retired day goes swimming.
Yep.
He builds dog houses for poor people who need a dog house to rescue a dog.
Yep.
His wife just went, Miss Jackie just went, where'd she go? She went to do something.
Do some errands or something.
Okay,
We're,
yeah.
we're getting ready to leave. We're leaving next Wednesday. So we're kind of in the final countdown, getting stuff done. I actually had to go to the bank and some stuff like that.
Okay. But a lot of times you're doing a lot of volunteer work.
Oh, yeah. She runs a nonprofit, which has exploded, called Freedom for Fido. You can check it out. She's got a YouTube, or not a YouTube channel. Well, actually, she does have a YouTube channel.
But Freedom for Fido?
Freedomforfido.com is her charity. But she's got a website, freedomforfido.com, Facebook page, and it's just exploded. We built, all last year, we built 4. What we do is a lot of dogs are on chains up here, and it broke my wife's heart. You think about passion and purpose in retirement. This has become my wife's thing. And we see a lot of dogs on chains up here. It was killing her.
What do you mean by on chains? Like they just leave them outside?
Chained out. Yeah.
And they
24/7.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
It's brutal. So we basically offer to build them for free, a nice big fenced enclosure, give them a dog house. And so we did 4 fences all last year. This year, with COVID and with us being in Michigan for a month, we've done 19 already this year.
Oh.
So we are humping it on building fence, but it's great. We got 50 volunteers.
Oh.
It's exploded. We got a lot of financial support from the community. Blue Ridge is a dog friendly town. So people love what we're doing. We've had some fundraisers and stuff, and it's great. There's a whole community of us now that are into this. And like yesterday, we went and we built a fence. There's a whole group of people that come out. We all know each other. We keep it fun. We keep it lively. It's, maybe 2 hours the first day to put the poles in the ground. We go back a couple of days later after the cement's dried. We put the fence up. That takes another 2 hours. So, minimal commitment by the volunteers, but you're contributing, you're giving back, and everybody loves it. So it's turned into a big deal. Yeah.
So when you're doing that, that allows a dog to run around without being chained up because he has a fence.
Right.
And that's a lot of times the reason they don't, because there's no fencing.
Yeah, they just don't have money for it.
Yeah.
And some people let their dogs run loose, which isn't great, but it's probably better than being fenced. But the other thing we do is we require that the fence go up against the house and that there's a door access to the house
Okay.
within the fenced in
Okay.
area. And the hope being that people will start letting the dogs in and out of the house,
Yeah.
you know, as they, you know, so, and so far we've got
Well,
some really
what
positive,
would they instead of just leave them out
instead
there?
of just leaving them outside.
Do they actually just leave the dog outside all the time?
A lot of them do. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad. So anyway, doing what we can do.
Well,
you
what's
know?
the point? I don't get it. Like what?
Why have a dog?
Yeah.
The problem is it's not illegal, right? A lot of areas have like leash laws, or not leash laws, you know, you can't chain a dog out. This area doesn't have that. So animal control can pick up a dog that's running around loose. They can, you know, pick up a stray and get it adopted. But if a dog's on a chain, they can't do anything because it's not breaking the law. So all the dog rescue things can't do anything about it. You know, Humane Society, animal control, it's a gap. So we're basically filling that gap.
Yeah.
And you know, most times people, they love their dogs, they just don't have any money. So we can provide something
Right.
that they can't afford, and it, you know, improves everybody's lives.
I just don't get why you'd have a dog leave them outside. It doesn't make sense to me.
I'm with you.
Because
We got 4 dogs in that cabin right there that you can see right behind me. There's 4
Yes,
dogs in
yeah.
there. It's one thing nice about having the studio out here. If the dogs start barking, yeah, it's okay. So
Well, Fritz just put this up. You know, it's nothing but woods essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last year.
yeah, we just got it done about probably 6 weeks ago.
So what's the property values in Blue Ridge doing? Going way down, right?
They're crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I think with the COVID thing, with the, you know, people trying to get out of the cities,
Yeah.
people able to work from home. I've heard the same thing. Like my uncle's up in Door County, Wisconsin. It's kind of a similar thing. It's a cabin place
Okay.
where people go to get out of Chicago and Milwaukee.
Okay.
Blue Ridge is kind of like that for Atlanta, right,
Gotcha.
in Florida.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So a lot of people are up here working from home. Property values have gone crazy. They've exploded.
Have you seen a lot of?
There's no market, as you see. The inventory is way low. There's
nothing.
almost nothing on the market right now.
No,
It's really hot.
It's nuts.
It's really hot.
And your houses that, like Fritz was saying, you know, he bought his house for a certain price, and it's probably, I mean, hell,
It's up probably 50% in 3 years.
nuts,
So yeah.
man.
And you know, I think the other thing is you got the demographics. You got a lot of retirees
Right.
that want to get out of the cities.
Yeah.
They want to, you know, this is an outdoor active lifestyle.
Yeah.
You got trout fishing, you got the lake, you got, you know, whitewater rafting, you got hiking. The Appalachian Trail is like 10 miles over there. You know, it's such an outdoor activity. And when people first get into retirement, a lot of people are attracted to the outdoor
Yeah.
lifestyle, and
Yeah.
this provides it. And yet you're only 2 hours from the Atlanta airport.
That's
If you want to
crazy.
travel, it's no big deal, you know? So it's,
How's the traffic? Have you seen a significant increase in traffic?
you really see it on the weekends.
Okay.
People come in on the weekends. It's
Yeah.
a big weekend vacation destination. You know, we rented our cabin. We bought it 7 years before I retired, and we rented it out, and it more than covered its expenses. We were making money on it. So,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people have rental cabins, and they just, you know, they do a side hustle with rental income. And, you know, you can definitely make money doing that. And there's that much demand. I mean, we probably rented our place 200 nights a year. I mean, it's just-
200 nights a year. Holy crap.
yeah, it's a very, very appealing area for a
So-
lot of people.
Let me ask you a question on that. So you bought it, and let's just say you carried a debt on. I'm just, you know, I mean, I'm not.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, this is our second cabin.
Right. I remember
So our
'cause you
first
bought
cabin,
something
yeah, because
that
we've had it for like 3 years. It's gone up 50%, right? The one we bought before that
was overlooking the mountain.
yeah, and
you
we
had
bought
a better view.
yeah, but you know, when you're living up here full time,
Right,
you like parking the RV. You showed the RV at the
Yeah.
beginning of the live stream. There's no place you can park an RV when you're on the side of a mountain, right? You can't have, you know, this is much better suited to, you couldn't build a workshop like this because everything's sloped.
Yep.
So I think when we moved up to our first cabin
Right.
and we started thinking about retirement, we started realizing the things that we would prefer for a full-time retirement
Yeah.
home are different than what you have for a weekend
Yep.
vacation place. Yeah.
Well, I remember you saying that it's like you had the big view and all that. You're like, but that's not, you know, that's not efficient in terms of your homestead. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So what we did, I mean, this worked out really well. We were living in Atlanta, had the big house in the city, and we had the weekend place up here, which we rented out. So it covered all of its expenses for 7 years. So we had no expense at all. Built the equity through the renter.
Now, did you have a property management team, or did
No,
you just do? So you just
Airbnb.
okay?
Had a lady that cleaned it for us. I knew a maintenance guy. If something happened, I could call him.
No big issue with
No
that.
big issue at all. It worked. You know, the rental places, they have them. I mean, a lot of people go that route, but you got to pay like 30% of your revenue, and we were paying 3%
Yeah.
to Airbnb.
Yeah.
So, you know, we pocketed 27% more by doing it ourselves, and it was probably maybe an hour or two a month.
Yeah.
You know, you send a couple emails, you give them the pin to get into the cabin, you call the
You
cleaning
showed it,
lady.
yeah. You showed
It's
it
no
to
big
them,
deal.
whatever. Yeah.
You know, we had a listing up. Anyway, so what we did then when we retired is we sold the house in the city, and
You guys
and
in
we had-
Sandy Springs?
we were in Conyers.
Okay, gotcha.
I
Right.
worked in Buckhead.
Okay.
That was a brutal commute, which I'm
Ugh.
glad is over with now. Atlanta traffic, people, is as bad as they say. But anyway, we took the equity from that home. We paid off our cabin here.
Yep.
So we're debt free.
Yep.
And then we took the extra equity from when we sold the house and we used it to fill bucket one
Yeah,
cash.
yeah.
So, and bought the RV and
Right.
stuff like that. So it worked out great. It was all kind of planned. You know, we had spreadsheets that kind of figured out the math.
Can I see how you pay for this right here?
Yeah, basically,
Like
I
on your
worked- I
equity
worked-
line or something like that?
no, we paid cash.
Okay.
I worked one more year than I had to.
Okay.
So we kind of knew, and I was very conservative in all of our assumptions. We'll
Yep.
talk health insurance later,
Yep,
right?
yep,
I
yep.
assumed $2,500 a month for
Yep.
health insurance. I assumed 0 income in retirement.
Yep.
We assumed everything conservatively. And even with that, we were looking at like a 3% withdrawal rate.
Yeah.
So I knew we had all kinds of cushion, and our spending's actually been coming in like it's very common with retirees. It came in below where we thought it would. So I'm like, son of a gun. I wrote an article called
Shocking.
I wrote an article called "It's Time to Live Like No One Else," right?
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey, live like no one else, so later you can live like no one else. And I'm like, now is the time to live like no one else. Doggone it, we're going to spend the money we know we can spend,
Yeah.
right? So we were underspending for 2 years, and we had built up a cushion. I made money selling my book, and I'm on a board of directors, which I hadn't planned on. So there's some income coming
Right.
in that I wasn't planning on.
So it's not thousands and thousands. It's not hundreds of thousands
but,
of bucks.
But over a couple of years,
Yeah.
it was enough to pay for this. We
Absolutely.
were underspending by enough to basically pay for this. And, I probably borrowed a little bit from the next
Yeah.
year's spending because I know we're underspending on
Yeah.
a maintenance sustaining level. So we were very comfortable investing the money. And I think what is important when we were making the decision whether or not to build the studio was, what do you want to do in your retirement? What gives you that purpose and your
Yeah.
passion? And that's what you should invest
Yep.
your money in.
Yep.
If you love camping, you should buy an RV.
Yes.
If you're not sure, don't go blow $100,000
No.
on an RV and never use it. That's stupid, right?
Yep.
But we knew that I love to write, so I wanted a writing studio. We knew that we needed the woodworking space for my wife's charity, and we had the means to do it. So I think the first thing you have to think about is, what is your passion and purpose in retirement? And then what do you have the means to afford, and make sure they're aligned.
Were you doing the blog before you retired?
I was.
So you knew that you had a passion.
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't figure that.
I discovered it though. I mean, I started it 3 years before I retired, I just threw it against the wall. I had no idea if I was going to like it or not, but I had an interest. I listened to podcasts for years.
Yeah.
So I started it, and within 6 months I was like, man, I really enjoy this, and I just, and I just found that I really love the challenge of writing. I love the interaction with the readers.
Yeah.
I love the mental stimulation of having to think of articles and writing them
Yeah.
every week. And it's turned into just something that I really find fulfillment in retirement.
So you
interacting
knew
with the
that
readers. Yeah.
going into the retirement. So you already had a passion in writing. Did you know you're gonna have a passion woodworking and stuff?
No,
How did you
no.
find that?
That was really through my wife's charity.
Okay.
There's a guy, actually, I've got a YouTube channel as well. It's nowhere near as big as this guy's.
The Retirement Manifesto, is that what's
yeah,
called?
the Retirement Manifesto.
So you got Freedom for Fido for Jackie.
Yep.
And then Retirement Manifesto
Yep.
for Fritz.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
And on one of those, I can't remember which one it is. We probably put it on Freedom for Fido, but we wanted to be able to show volunteers how to build a doghouse. So we have like a master builder. This guy's amazing. So I say, hey, Tim, would you mind if I come over and film it, make a YouTube video?
That's
so I put together a whole
fantastic.
production thing, all the steps. I made
Yeah.
blueprints that went with it, the whole thing. And while I was watching him
that's
and learning from him, I was like, you know what? This appeals to me.
Yeah.
It's just something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I got the bug for it.
That's so one of the things, Fritz, that I hear a lot is people don't know what their passion is. How do you like any recommendations how to find that passion?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So I mean, a lot of people, their passion, I hate to say it, is their job.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's not even their passion. Like, this is what I want to do. It's just what they've always done.
I would argue most people fit into
especially men.
that. Exactly. I actually had an email this morning from a guy. Exactly. It's actually my post that came out today on my blog. It's one of the comments, so you'll see it. You'll see what I was talking about. But the guy was basically saying that, hey, I'm a couple years from retirement.
Yeah.
I'm kind of worried because I don't really have any hobbies. I just work. And I hear that over and over and over. And a lot of what I wrote about in my book was kind of how to find that.
Yeah.
I think in summary, the biggest encouragement I give people is, you've been so indoctrinated over 30 years of doing your job, and school before that, where people tell you what to do.
Yep.
You're forced into submission.
Yep.
You don't have that creative liberty
Yep.
that you had when you were a kid. So what you need to work on as you move into retirement is fostering that childlike curiosity. And if something interests you just a little bit, and you kind of, kind of like to play banjo or whatever, well, doggone it, go take a banjo lesson,
Yeah,
right?
man.
Take that first step in anything that interests you. And if you try 10 or 15 different things, you might find one or two, like my writing,
Yep.
that you find you really love.
Yeah, man, totally.
And you might find 9 that you don't care for.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yep.
You know, but just follow that curiosity over and over and over, and you'll find it.
Man,
And, you know, my wife,
Yep.
you know, with her charity, she just,
How did she know about that with dogs? I mean, it's
you know,
always
she's never built a fence in her life.
okay.
Her mom had passed away, and this was 3 months after I retired. She had Alzheimer's. We were given full-time care. She lived with us for a while, and she passed away. And my wife was suddenly like, wow, you know, that was kind of my job, was caregiving, right? From the time she was a stay-at-home mom. So she full-time care for our daughter and then full-time care for her mom. I'm retired. I'm starting to write. Things are great. And suddenly she's like, oh, my mom passed away. You go through the
Right.
obvious mourning of losing a parent.
Right.
But in addition to that, she's kind of like, wow, that was kind of my job.
Yeah.
And she hadn't planned for what's going to be next. So she was kind of going through, how do you find a purpose?
Yeah.
And she just happened to watch a YouTube video. Might have been Facebook. Mike Rowe, the guy in Dirty Jobs.
Yeah, Dirty
He
Jobs.
does called returning the favor. It's a YouTube or a Facebook show where he profiles different nonprofits. And he was doing one on a charity out in Oregon that does exactly what she's doing now. And she's like, man, I could do that in Blue Ridge. So she had the curiosity and she decided to take the first step, and it's turned into an absolute passion of hers in retirement.
That's
So
freaking-
I think that's the key is keep your eyes open, be receptive. I spent a couple days with Tim, right? Building a doghouse.
yeah.
I was curious. I liked it.
Yeah.
And I pursued it, right? My writing, I kind of had a curiosity. I'll start a blog, and I pursued it. Most people that find something like that, nobody's going to tell you what it is. You got to find it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And most people find it by just being curious. We got a lot of comments. Should we take a look at some of these?
Yeah, in a second. But one of the things I was going to say too is that, but you also have to be willing to recognize you might need some help. You might need to ask Tim. You might need to look at a YouTube video on how to do this. You might need to say, especially if you're like more of an executive guy from your work. And I think a lot of times, like the military, you get these, flag officers and particularly the generals and admiral and stuff. And like, they're always telling people what to do.
Yeah.
Well, now you're going to a field being retirement that you don't have any guide. No one's going to listen to you. No one gives two craps about your rank, name, rank, serial number.
Yep.
And so you got to sit there and say, well, what do I do now? You might just need to ask and say, I don't know. And I don't know what it is, but you have to be able to be curious, but also say, I need some help here.
Yeah. And there's a whole realm. I mean, you do financial YouTube. I do financial writing. Yeah. There's a whole nother realm of people that kind of do retirement coaching.
Yes.
Aside from the financials, I got a bunch of them in my book in the resources section. A lot of them are my friends. I mean, they're kind of in the same space, but they focus on the non-financial aspects. Yeah. My blog focuses probably 3/4 of the content at this point on non-financial stuff. I think, look around on the internet, look up, retirement coaches. Yeah. And, a lot of people struggle. I have a whole section in my book about hidden challenges. Yeah. And your chance of going into depression when you retire goes up 40%. A lot of people struggle because they're like exactly what we're talking about. I don't have a purpose. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Well, don't be too proud to not reach out for professional help. If you need a counselor, forget just coaching. If you need psychological, somebody
it's
talk
okay.
to. There's people out there. It's okay.
Well, especially when you talk to a professional, they've seen it before.
Right.
You see, and I'm not just saying a psychologist or a shrink. I'm just saying if that's who cares?
Yeah.
You say, look, I'm going to the next chapter of my life. I just need someone to, maybe give me a boot in the butt, or just to say, look, I've been through this. Right. I've seen this. Right. That is a huge, especially for men. I've seen, I've been a financial planner, Fritz, for 25 years. And you see a lot of men, they get that nut. They're 60. You say, okay, now I'm, telling my job, I'm getting out of my crap little job. Now what? Now I'm just going to watch Fox News or MSNBC and just get really cranky because politics. I'm like, but that's not.
Or drink too much.
Or drink too
alcoholism.
much.
It happens. Yeah.
And then that's not good. So far in your retirement, you're like, dude, I never, 3 years ago, if you look back at your work and now you're saying we're 3 years ago, you're sitting there saying now, man, I can't believe I'm doing what I'm doing. I never would have thunk it. You know what I'm
saying? I got to say, I think everybody's apprehensive when they're on the cusp of retirement, right? You don't know if it's kind of like being married. Until you get married, you don't know what it's like.
Right.
And I was really curious, how am I going to adapt? I've always been kind of a type A, high energy guy. Yep. And I'm looking back now, 2.5 years into it, and it's gone amazingly well. I love retirement. The transition was smooth. We love our life. But I think the biggest part of that was taking the time before I retired to really think about what do we want our retirement to be, moving to Blue Ridge, starting the blog, things like that we're talking about. Do that while you're still working and really think about where you want to be, what you want to do. Don't wait until, you retire and start, because I've had a ton of readers, a lot of friends who have just charged right up till the end. And all of a sudden there's just this huge void. It's not just money, right? You got your friendships at work, you've got your purpose at work, you got a boss telling you what to do, you've got structure to your day, right? There's all these things that come with work. It's gone the day you retire. And that's a big gulf to fill. If you just start shoveling on day one, start shoveling, a year or two before. It really helps.
That's what I did when I quit my job at USAA. I said, all right, I had a thought in my head. I knew I wanted to do YouTube, but I had a thought, and I said, okay. And then once you start doing it, you're like, okay, now I got a mission, essentially. You know what I'm saying? And that's I don't know how these guys. I think it's tough. I always am sympathetic to people just retiring, leaving that what they were used to for 40 flipping years. And now they're going to the big unknown. They're like, so we can talk about money all day long, but a lot of times it's not the money; it's the emotional state.
Right. I would say the money's relatively easy. Yeah. I mean, it's not. You got to have the savings, but I'm saying that the calculation of the financial side is fairly easy. The figuring out the non-financial side is harder, and I would argue it's probably as important, maybe more.
I think and once the money, because the monetary thing is pretty all right. So you said you've seen that your expenditures have actually gone down, or at least less than what they would be. How come you think that is? I mean,
mainly we had very conservative assumptions by design. I didn't want to get into retirement and like we can just barely make it, and then you're constantly worried about money, right? I'm like, I would rather plan for the worst. Have insurance. Obvious example, plan for a $2,500 a month bill, across the board. We took that approach, plan for no income coming in, et cetera, plan for extensive travel, so we padded everything. Now, maybe I had to work a little longer because of that. Fair enough. But
you weren't miserable at your job.
I wasn't miserable at my job. I mean, you weren't bad. No, I mean,
just getting by.
Yeah, it was fine.
How old are you again?
I'm 50. I'm now 57. I retired at 55.
Okay, gotcha.
So, anyway, where was I going with that?
No, just about your expenses. You were conservative.
So we were conservative across the board, and now that we're in retirement and we're seeing the actual spending, man, there's a huge peace of mind to knowing you don't really have to worry about the financial side. We're well below the 4% safe withdrawal rate. The market crashes, it's fine. We got bucket one full of cash. The peace of mind that comes from being conservative in your planning is worth a lot once you get here.
So about healthcare, what's the situation? Wait, hold on a second. Let's just pause for a second. Nothing. You hear that, guys?
I heard a bird.
I heard a bird. Oh man, no leaf blowers.
It's pretty nice, isn't it?
Dude, that's freaking awesome. I love the smell. I just went to, I was telling Fritz and Jackie when I came up here, I stopped, I did a U-turn at this local shop, a table stand store where they're selling apples. I bought a bag of apples, and the sales lady there said, you should try one of our freshly made fritters. I said, okay. I bought a big fat fritter and I ate that in about 2 seconds flat. And I had to call my wife and say, we've got to move because I need that fresh baked fritter every day. So I'm addicted. I think she put cocaine on there. We'll get some questions just a second. And we'll go to your comments too. By all means, fire questions away at Fritz all day long. I just want to get in a couple other things here. And first, I appreciate y'all being here. If you haven't signed up for Fritz's YouTube channel, please do. Retirement Manifesto. Buy his book, Keys to a Successful Retirement, and I'll put a link in the show notes so you can buy it through my link. Wait, do you get Amazon revenue too?
Yeah, but go ahead.
On your own book?
If I do it with my link,
okay.
Do it with your link. You
do it either. But and then sign up for retirement is retirementmanifesto.com.
The Retirement Manifesto. The Retirement Manifesto. Got the TAG in there.
All right. So healthcare, what's the situation?
So healthcare, we knew going in we'd do COBRA, right? So we did COBRA for 18 months, which expired last December. And I was really, I think last time we talked, we were kind of, what are we going to do? And you talked about your wife going to work, and now she's got her benefits because private health insurance is expensive.
Yes.
Right. Well, as I started looking into it more, my employer used to offer retiree health insurance. Like most, they canceled it. Yeah. But the benefit of them having offered it in the past was they discontinued it before I retired, but they kind of did a sloping tail for like 4 years where they would just gradually wean people off the subsidy. So there was actually still a subsidy available for 2020.
Okay.
So that's number one. So I jumped into that. It's a relatively minor subsidy, but hey, it's cheaper than buying in the open market. But the bigger benefit of it is because it's a group plan.
Yeah.
The rates are lower than anything you can buy. As
So
an
is it
individual
still
plan.
through your
It's-
previous employer's insurance?
Yeah,
Okay.
they organize. It's through Aetna,
Okay.
so it's a major insurance company,
Okay.
but it's just retirees from the company.
Okay. Gotcha.
Previously, the payments had been done through my previous employer. They've discontinued that.
Right.
So as of January of 21, I'm going to be 100% on the hook for it. But the fact that it's a group plan,
Okay.
we're going to be looking at probably just under $2,000 a month.
Okay.
So it's going to be cheaper than
So
what
it's
we
still
can find.
the group plan through your previous employer.
100% paid by me.
Okay. So it's essentially like Cobra until you hit Medicare.
But yeah, it's a individual. It's a marketplace insurance, not really open to the market. It's a group plan for retirees. So
previous employer.
from my so if you can find a group plan, right? If you go out on the ACA website and you look, it's shocking, right? If you haven't done this, do it.
Ugh.
Go out and go to the ACA website during the sign up and put in your stats, and they'll show you kind of gold, silver, bronze prices. It will stagger you how expensive this stuff is. What if you can associate in any way, shape, or form with a group?
Oh, okay.
There's different groups. Like somebody said I should join like the Screenwriters Guild because I'm a writer. They said, hey, you should join the Screenwriters Guild. You can get their group insurance plan. I never heard of that.
Really?
So if you're struggling on how to find insurance,
Interesting.
I didn't get into it because I found this group thing through my work. But if you can find a group plan, those rates are almost always, because the risk is diversified.
Right.
Those rates are always lower than an individual plan. So the key is to try to find a group plan, or you can go health sharing ministries. We talked about that last time. There's other options.
So the group
look
plan,
for a group plan if you can find
one. It's almost like a credit union kind of thing. You're affiliating with a certain.
Exactly.
Is that new? Or is that
no? It's just not well known. And I don't know how many I don't know how to find them. I just heard about the Screenwriters Guild. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I don't know what groups have group plans, and I've never Googled group insurance plans, but I'm sure you can find them. I know they're out there.
That's a good point, man. So, I imagine like we'll say, electricians union group, probably not the union, but let's say a self-employed electrician group.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
You don't know. Yeah. So that's a interesting angle to look at.
But still, $2,000 a month is what. That's for you and Jackie.
Yeah.
And what's the deductible and all that?
I'd have to look. It's a high deductible.
Well,
HSA, it's the standard high deductible plan.
I think
it's decent insurance. Covers prescriptions, all that stuff.
That's pretty much what I say. It usually says it's about $800 a month per person until Medicare. $1,000 a month. It kind of depends on where you are, but generally speaking, $800 to $1,000 a month per person.
A little more expensive up here.
Yes. Exactly.
Rural areas, I think, are a little more expensive.
Absolutely.
Than urban.
You know where Carrollton, Georgia is? Sure. I had a couple in Carrollton, Georgia, and it's $2,500 a month. Just her husband and wife, because it's rural.
Yeah.
So if you're in a more urban area, it's probably I would say $800 a month. If you're in a more rural area, it's about $1,000 a month per person until it's 65 when you go on Medicare. But remember, Medicare isn't free. All right, you still got Part B, which is basically $150. You got Part D, which is basically $50, and then you got to get a Medigap, or AKA a Medicare supplemental policy, or you could get a Medicare Advantage. But if you have the money, my recommendation is to get the Medigap policy for sure. That's about another $150, depending on what state you live in, and that's before any out-of-pocket expenses. Yep. So even Medicare, it ain't cheap, but still, I think before you hit 65, you're looking at probably $1,000 a month per person.
And I suspect as time goes by, those will become more and more means tested, right? And the more
for income,
they'll be okay, maybe you're $1,000 now. If you're making X or above, it might be $1,500, right? I think they've got to find a way to increase the income to cover some of the expenditures, right? So I think you're going to see more and more of those retiree programs. I suspect, right? Again, I'm always conservative.
That's a good point.
My assumption is those are going to get more expensive for those who have done well financially and have put themselves in a good position for retirement.
No, that makes sense. So that's Medicare's means test with the IRMA stuff. The same thing. That's only going to get more and more means tested too.
Exactly.
Anything else jump at you before we see some comments here?
No, let's take a look.
All right, so let's go up here. We're going to go. All right,
a lot of comments. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for being here, y'all. And don't forget to paw the like button for Fido. Let's see. What would a dog do? So I got Pablo the dog. I say, make sure you paw the like button. So I don't know what you say for a
doghouse. Maybe
I like it. Alliterations like F for
I
Fido.
gotcha.
Fart the like button for Fido. Looks like we are talking about that. Okay, gotta go.
Two favorite bloggers. Thank you, Gina. Appreciate that.
Gina
We're just
McGinn.
catching up now.
Oh, okay. Don't jinx me. That's nice. Love the animals. Just me. All right. Not all people. Okay. Hello, Fritz and Josh from San Antonio. It's a beautiful day here too. Yep. Agree with your yes because you can blog.
Thank you, Big E.
Retired almost 2 years ago, loving it. Give back and volunteer your community.
You can. He's probably referring my article today was called "Because You Can." So
okay.
Hey, that's pretty good. I just caught that. Nice job, Big E. My post that came out today was called "Because You Can," and the whole point was how many things could you really do?
Yeah.
I mean, how much are you capable of doing? And we don't do it, right? There's so much in life that you don't do that you're capable of. Well, you know what? There's going to come a point in your life where you're no longer capable of it. So do it. Do it just because you can. Be generous because you can, right? Get into woodworking because you can, right? Look at life as an opportunity to do things, especially in retirement, just because you can. That's what the article is today. So thank you, Big E. I appreciate it.
It's funny. On the front page of my web page, Fritz, I will share with you I say because I could not agree with that more. Oops, that's not what I wanted.
Water break.
I say it's a biblical phrase. It says, let's see where is it right there on the front page? We say, I know that there's nothing better for men than to rejoice and do good while they live.
That's Ecclesiastes 3:12, if I remember.
That's yeah.
Is that right?
It was.
There we go.
Did you know that?
No.
I was gonna say, man. Well, you said
the
fact you said Ecclesiastes. I'm like E3:12. But yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Never can figure out. All right, we talk about dogs. Not only is my spending below income, it's even below the budget amount. Yep.
There you go. Vinyl One, Earthlink. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And that's very common, especially you living outside the city. That's the same thing we experienced. We kind of have the geo arbitrage working for us. We moved up here to the mountains. It's lower property taxes, lower cost of living. So that helps.
Let me ask you a question. So you're paying $100 a month in property taxes.
Yeah, about right.
And you were paying in Conyers probably $6,000 a year.
No, I think we were paying about $4,000.
Okay,
so you say it dropped 75%.
Yeah, 75% decrease in property tax.
No, the house value went down, right?
Yeah,
we had a more expensive house, but that's part of it, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
We downsized and we moved to a cheaper area. So you put the two together and it's 75%.
100% right.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. But if that's the point about downside,
right?
All right. So then on top of that, you're no longer paying FICA. You know what I'm saying? You probably have incomes coming. Is it all in your retirement accounts, or are you having to sit in a cash account too, like your first bucket?
I've got a variety. I've got before tax, after tax. Roth. I've got a whole. One thing. As you get ready for retirement, I'm sure you've talked about this a lot. You got to look at kind of your tax bracketing and get stuff in all the buckets. Yeah. I've got too much in before tax, because when I was working, I was always contributing before tax, get your income down. And I'm doing a lot of Roth conversions now, especially with the Trump tax levels. We really like, to me, it's a golden opportunity to do Roth conversions. So we've been doing a lot of those. So I'm whittling down that before tax money. But we've got money kind of scattered.
So are you on your first bucket? Is that your income bucket?
The first bucket is all after tax. It's cash. So our first 3 years is all cash, money market funds. Yeah. It's just sitting there.
So other than Roth conversions, though, you really have no taxable income.
Well, my pension is taxable.
Oh, you got pension too. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. All right, pension too. Okay, gotcha. So you have the pension. And then forget Roth conversions.
A little bit of this stuff, right? You're making some money on the side. So,
but I guess what I'm saying is, though, your income tax has gone down.
Oh yeah, huge.
Because no FICA.
And I'm not making any salary that I was in my highest earning years.
Exactly. So now you got your income tax down, your FICA down. You're not putting 401k contributions away. Your property tax went down. The cost to heat the house went down because it was a smaller house. The cost of air conditioning. And up here, you don't even really need the air conditioning.
Doors are hanging out. Yeah, it's definitely cooler. You notice the difference from here to Atlanta. Yeah.
Well, one thing's
we're at 1,700. We're at 1,700 feet elevation here. I know you can't tell that looking at the screen, but it's relatively high elevation, so it is cooler.
It's more elevated higher than Atlanta. Like you said.
Yeah.
What in the summertime? How hot is it? Like
I would say,
could you definitely feel a difference? Down there?
It's probably 4 to 5 degrees cooler than Atlanta. So that's noticeable,
absolutely.
So it's still humid, it's still hot. Hey, it's Georgia, right? But we're we're 5 miles from Tennessee. We're at the very, very top end of Georgia. So it's the coolest-
elevated.
Yeah, and elevated. So it's the coolest you can be in Georgia. But hey, let's not kid ourselves. It's
still
Georgia.
south.
It's still Georgia.
Under a deep canopy too.
Yeah,
So
sure helps.
yeah, absolutely. Do you mosquitoes?
Not really. Bugs aren't a problem up here. Don't know why, but there's no bugs. As
Friggin'
you can see, we're
Fritz.
sitting outside.
I have yet to be eaten by a mosquito once, and I'm so sweet they love me. All right, so sound like the beginning of a book, says Ray. Ray's my man from Dallas, I think Dallas, SMU, if memory serves, about analyzing what could be a good encore career.
Ray, I got to mention to you, that's really interesting. We were talking, Josh and I, before we went live, and he's saying, hey, have you thought about writing another book? And I actually was approached about writing a book kind of along the lines of what you're talking about there. For people that are not yet retired, this was more about making the transition to retirement and how to find your purpose and things like that, setting up your finances. But there was some interest in writing a book purely on exactly that. How do you position yourself in those last couple of years of work to make the jump? And I didn't take it on. It's a lot of work to write a book, and I just, the freedom of retirement, right? You can do what you want to do. And I just decided I didn't want to write another book right now. I got a lot going on, but you're spot on. That's a great suggestion.
Well, one thing about maybe doing that in the future is it does give you the discipline to have. I mean, I guess when you had people breathing down your neck to get this done.
Yeah, which was good.
Which was good. I was gonna say, in some ways that could be a pain. In some ways, it's good too, because you're like, look, I have a deadline.
Yeah. But it almost felt. It didn't feel like going back to work because I love to write,
right,
and I was doing something I love to do. But having that little bit of deadline pressure again, I was like, it made me appreciate how much I love retirement, because in retirement, there is no deadline pressure other than whatever you self-impose. But this was externally imposed.
Yes.
And it was like, now I see why I like retirement. I don't like that external pressure. It was fine. I loved writing it. Well, great editor, great publishing company.
They bought you that Jeep.
And they bought me that Jeep. So life is good.
On the other hand, with my Wellington books, I'm writing this book on retirement Wellington. It's done. I've had a couple of people on offshore there read it for him, which is good, been big helpful. But I started writing that book in January. All right. Now the funny thing is I look back and say that was before any of this happened. I mean, isn't that crazy? Like that was before Black Lives Matter, Antifa go crazy. That was before COVID. That was that the thing we were worried about then was the repo markets. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm sitting there and I remember I'm looking at this book. I'm like, this is nuts. And now I'm getting ready it'll be done by here in the next probably next week. I'm sitting there thinking, on top of that, this will be done before the election. We have no clue you know what I'm saying? It's like you're writing it, and the things of the life changes right in front of your very eyes.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And I guess what that tells me is like life's happened so fast. Don't just sit there sitting in traffic for an hour. Look, it's easy for me to say, it's easier for Fritz to say now that he's retired and I'm self-employed, but sitting in traffic for an hour and a half, allowing life to come to you, it's just, man, it friggin' sucks. I'm going to interview Sherry Peel. Oh God, what's her name? She's from Atlanta, actually. She's she used to be an IRS agent, Sherry Peel Jackson tomorrow night. And I emailed her because my man Starling from Hawaii emailed me, said, you should interview this lady. Very interesting lady. And I'm going to interview her tomorrow. And she looked at my website and she saw, I said, you weren't made to sit in traffic for an hour and a half each way. And she said, that was her. And now she does, is independent, does YouTube and does other kind of work. And I'm going to interview her tomorrow too about that same thing. It's cool. Like, she's an older lady, older Black woman who's like, she's like, this isn't, it's, you're not, and the sad thing is how many people are denied it because they're being sucked into this. You can't do this because of your skin color, because you were born in Maine, because your name is Fritz or something like that. See what I'm saying? You can freaking do it, but you just got to take the time and say, let me pull my head out of my butt and see what's out there and available to me. Because if I don't, you just wake up one day and you're like, man, what the hell did I waste? It's evil stuff. And I feel really bad about, these inner city kids who are told by people who know better that they have no choice, that because there's always a cop at the freaking end of the road is going to freaking with the boot. It infuriates me because
everybody has an opportunity.
Everybody. Now some have to work harder at it. I completely get that. But what I love about Sherry, and Fritz, you're leading the way, but Sherry too says, look, I don't care if you're a friggin' Black lady, if you're a white guy, you all have the opportunity given to you, but you got to grasp it. And if you don't grasp it, then you have no one to blame. And infuriates.
I tell you, the other thing that I think people get trapped in is this whole lifestyle creep and lifestyle inflation,
yeah,
and they're living, they're driving a fancy new car, and hey, maybe they're making $300,000 a year, but they're saving 5%. That kills me. Like if you've got a decent income, there's no reason you can't retire early.
No.
It's not hard. You can't let your material consumption grow with your income, right? And that's the other part, is once you have pursued that opportunity, don't just spend it all as it comes in, right? Think longer term.
Yeah. That's I think that happens a lot, actually. People say, I got some income, let me spend. The sad thing is they don't recognize you also have a lien on your income called the IRS, the tax man. So you might be making 300, but you're only netting 180. You know what I'm saying? And you're only saving 5%, and you've accustomed yourself to that kind of income.
Right. Exactly.
Was your wife anxious? Scott says, was your wife anxious, old Jackie, or young Jackie, about retiring when the concept of retirement first brought up?
Yeah, good question, Scott. I've talked a lot about that in the book and on other podcasts, but I think you have to appreciate that she was a stay-at-home mom, as I said. And then she was taking care of her mom with Alzheimer's. So she's been home for 30 years. And I think every stay-at-home spouse always wonders about what's it going to be like when the working spouse comes home full time, right? And yeah, she had those worries, of course. I think the key to it is recognizing that the change is going to be as big for her as it was for me, in a different way, but equally big. And make sure that both voices are involved as you think about what you want your retirement life to be. It's not my retirement life because I've been working and now I'm retired. It's our retirement life because I've been away from home. Now I'm going to be home. How's that going to change things? So yeah, she was apprehensive about it, but I wouldn't say it was a big concern for us. We talked through it. We figured it out. It was fine. But I've had spouses come to me, like retirement parties and stuff, say, man, I don't know what I'm going to do when, Joe comes home all the time because, he's going to drive me crazy. Right. So, I mean, that's a natural thing. And there is a transition there. It takes some time, but it's worked out well.
Isn't it, you think it's a coincidence that Jackie scooted out of here when I came?
Hey, she brought you cupcakes.
I saw I got my eyes on these cupcakes right there. The vanilla frosting and vanilla cupcake. It looks like vanilla. Oh, man. But it's funny you said that, because when I quit my crap bill job and working from home, my wife stayed home. You know what I'm saying? Same thing. And she goes, it's weird because people were saying, hey, what do you think? Josh is on, blah, blah. She goes, yeah, it's great. He's there all the time. Everywhere I turn, there's Josh. I'm like, that's not true. You're there. Like, I'm in the office, but you're there.
You're there.
And so I said, so she wanted to get a job for health insurance, Fritz. Health insurance, i.e. get away from me.
Mental health to get away from you. Well, and I think a lot of people can relate to that are still working, that have gone through the whole COVID thing and started working from home, right? I mean, the old office where I was at, they've been working from home for 6 months, whatever it's been. And suddenly spouses are together all the time, right? So it's not that much different than this whole work from home phase that people are going through. So I think a lot more people can relate to that.
What do you think about this with the work? I mean, you think there's going to be more? I mean,
it's going to be a huge shift.
Do you think it's permanent now that where it's like you're like,
no doubt.
That would, so
I tell you what, I would not want to invest in right now is commercial real estate.
Downtown property.
They're going to get crushed. Your lease is going to come up. You're a big corporation. You got 4 floors in a ritzy part of the city.
In Buckhead.
In Buckhead.
Right.
You got 4 floors. Okay, your lease comes up for renewal. You say, you know what? I'm going to take it down to 1 floor.
Right.
Multiply that times 1,000.
Right.
Corporate offices around the country. It's going to be decades before that space ever gets
going to happen.
It's going to get crushed.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Why would any corporate guy say we're going to keep that 4 offices in Buckhead when we were doing just fine?
Right. You know what? This works. I mean, maybe it's not ideal. Okay, fine. So you have people rotate into the office. Everybody will take a little bit different approach. But I can't imagine a corporation that won't downsize their footprint and let people work from home a little bit more. Employees are going to demand it because they're going to say, hey, you know what? If I got to start doing that hour-and-a-half commute each way again, you know what? I think I'm going to change jobs because I know those guys over there don't make their employees do that. So the employees that offer that are going to attract the best talent.
Man, I agree.
And if people try to force everybody to come back in the office, they're going to lose talent. That's why I think it's a long-term thing. And I think people that have come up to the mountains and they're working from up here, they're like, man, you know what? The human mind wasn't made to commute an hour and a half each way every day. I have a choice in life and I'm going to pursue it. I think you're going to see it both from the corporate savings perspective and from the employee quality of life saving. That's why I think it's a long-term, I really do, a long-term trend.
And it's a long-term benefit, actually.
Yeah.
I really, truly believe.
I think so too. Yeah.
almost by design. But but then you think about the restaurants, like where I used to live, work in Buckhead, we had they had a Brazilian steakhouse right now. I can't remember, but
I've eaten there many times.
Well,
The red and the green little thing that you flip on your yeah.
Well, no, that was, I don't think it was right next to us, but it was like Twin Peaks. You know that place?
Yeah,
Twin
right in
Peaks?
that area.
Yeah.
There's that.
I never went Twin Peaks. That was like a Hooters. I literally never went.
I got to tell you a funny story about Twin Peaks. This is a ride. If those of you who don't know Twin Peaks, it's kind of a high scale Hooters. It's not that great. But my wife was down there with my daughter, and you know, it looks like a very Northwestern theme. Big log cabin. It looks really cool. So my wife was down in Atlanta with my daughter, and they drove by Twin Peaks. We're like, oh, this looks kind of good. Let's go in there for lunch. So my wife and my daughter went into basically an upscale Hooters. They've laughed about that ever since. Anyway, how did we get down that rabbit trail? My goodness.
But that's what I'm saying. But if you're in that because that's where we used to work, and people go with all these first. Those places are going to be killed.
Yeah, they are.
I wonder. All right, so let's say commercial real estate in those areas, but how about commercial real estate in a place like Alpharetta? Because it's suburban, easier to get to.
You'll get some people that'll migrate instead of that.
I think so.
I think the other area that you'll see probably a hit is people that have always wanted to spend the extra money to live close to the office.
Yeah.
You know, Buckhead. You're going to pay $2 million for a house to be able to have a 10-minute drive to work. Well, now you don't have to go to work anymore. Is it really worth spending $30,000 a year in property taxes when you can, you know, move out to Alpharetta and go into the office one day a week and save, you know, $25,000 a year on your property taxes forever? So I think the homes in those expensive areas near the popular commercial districts, that I wouldn't want to own property in those areas.
I completely agree. Which is the ironic thing, because I'm sitting there thinking, all these places are, you know, there's demand through the roof. Like I have a Mary on my YouTube channel. I don't know if she's on here or not, but right now she's a realtor in Connecticut, you know, the suburban side of New York City, Connecticut. And they're freaking going crazy.
Yeah, because everybody's moving out of the city.
But they have to sell something to move out. So there's got to be someone else on that buy side. So I get it, they're moving out, but who's the person on the buy side?
Yeah.
See, that's what I don't get.
Well, and I've heard already, like Midtown Manhattan values are cratering already. So they're selling, but they're selling below what they could have sold a year ago, right? But maybe they bought 10 years ago. Yeah. So they're still making, they're still making, you know, $100,000. They could have made $1 million. Okay, I'm still making $100,000. I'm going to get out while I can.
And on top, I'm still going to better quality of life and all that stuff too. That's interesting. Now the one of the reasons we can do this here where we couldn't do it last year is because we got the Wi-Fi, the high-speed internet. Is that they just lay the wire down, the cable down?
You know what's crazy? This is amazing. I'm on the end of a dirt road. You guys can't
literally the end of a dirt road.
It's literally the end of a dirt road.
and on a ridge. Yeah. Because there's a mountain.
It's a drops off on both sides. And internet up here is really a problem, right? And you know, for what I do, you kind of need internet. Yeah. So there was a TDS thing, which was really slow, and it was okay, but you couldn't do, you know, this kind of stuff. Right. Well, about a year, ironically, about the time we were starting to think about this building, we were actually looking at another property. We were going to buy a warehouse for my wife's charity. We were thinking, hey, let's buy a warehouse. We can make a wood shop. You know, we were thinking either buy something existing or build something here. Right. So we looked at a place that was an existing kind of smaller warehouse, and they had this high-speed internet. I'm like, man, that's crazy. They got it out here. And the name of the company was, it doesn't matter, ETC. So I called ETC to confirm that warehouse had high-speed internet. And the guy's like, yeah. And I said, hey, by the way, can I give you my address at home and see if you guys have any plans to run out there? So I called and they said, oh, we're like, you know, 2/3 of the way up your road already. And I was like, oh, great. I said, well, let me think about it. And so we didn't buy the warehouse. A month later, I called back and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to pay to have it run out here, whatever it costs. So I call them and the lady's like, no, that technician was wrong. We actually run, you know where the end of the ETC high-speed internet is? That telephone pole right at the end of my driveway is the end of the high-speed line.
So it's always here?
It was right. No, they had just run it. I just wasn't aware of it. They had just run it in the last year.
So how come?
So all I had to do is pay a tap-in fee, and I got high-speed internet.
Oh man, it's almost like county
water. Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like you're literally just tapping into the county water line.
It was awesome, and they ran it right to that pole.
So what if you lived on the other side? You got a guy.
You don't have high-speed internet. My neighbor that way doesn't have high-speed internet.
But could he get it if he wanted it?
He'd have to pay to run it down.
Right, yeah.
And he's probably a half mile down the road, so it'd probably cost him a fortune.
Like when you say a fortune, like how much?
And that's what I was going to ask. Hey, if you're already on my road, how much would I have to pay to get to my house? And I didn't have to ask the question because they had actually run to my telephone.
I wonder why they went there.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
So all you had to do is once they put it to that telephone pole, you just had to plug in.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So that was jackpot. That was like, when you're a blogger and you do this kind of stuff, internet's a big deal.
How do you
I
know?
was so happy about that.
So I'm just curious. So say someone's looking at that house right there. Would you just call the ETC, say, "Are you have high speed internet?" To
That's why I called for the warehouse.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted high speed internet. One of the benefits when we were looking at the.
But how did you know who to call to begin with?
Well, the guy that was selling the warehouse said, "Oh, we have the high speed internet. There's only one company that does the high speed up here."
Okay.
And he said, "Oh, we have ETC high speed internet." I was like, you know what? I'm going to call his bluff. I'm just going to double check, right? Check the facts. So I called ETC and say, "Hey, I'm just checking this property." And he said, "Yeah, we run there."
Okay.
And just because we were looking at that place, I happened to ask him about ours. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even thought to ask.
Oh, that's crazy.
So yeah.
So all right,
Big deal.
that would be something if you're looking at a house in the more rural area to call, find out who the internet provider is and call.
Absolutely.
And say, "Hey, does
big buddy of mine lives gorgeous house. I mean, he is up on top of a mountain. He can see for miles. It's absolutely spectacular. But he has no cell phone service and like satellite internet. I mean, it's horrible. But his house, like if you were just looking at homes and you just went in there and you were just caught up in the, you would be like, oh my gosh, this is paradise. But when you look at the functionality of actually living there, man, ask about cell phone or, look at your phone.
Do you have cell phone coverage here?
Yeah, we do. That's one of the things we looked at.
How did you know you'd have good cell phone
when
coverage?
we were looking at homes?
Okay,
we'd always check it.
Okay.
And we would not buy a house that has poor cell phone service
man.
because it's too important.
Yeah.
We don't have a landline anymore.
Yeah.
We live with our cell phones.
So when you were up here, when you first bought this house, that was 7 years ago, right?
Yeah, we didn't have cell phone coverage at our other house. We had to pay for a landline.
Okay. So then you came here when you bought it, you said it got good cell phone.
Yeah.
You knew it didn't have that great internet yet.
Yeah.
Were you expecting that they'd put it in at some point, or?
At some point, you got to think high speed's going to roll out everywhere, right? But we were like, well, they've got internet. We can live with it. We had TDS at the other place. It was okay.
Is it going to roll out everywhere? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, what happens with 5G? I don't know. I don't know how all that stuff works, but
I think it's got. Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, if it's.
Isn't Google going to have dirigibles all over the place and they're going to beam down stuff for us? You should know that stuff.
I don't know anything about it. All I know is
anybody know out there? Yeah,
all I know is that we're going to get rid of cash. I do know that. And they're going to put a friggin' chip in your phone. Say it's for your safety.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's your mask, dude?
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
Actually, the nice thing about up here is I won't say no one, but very few people wearing masks.
Blue Ridge it's surprising. Number one, Georgia was one of the first states to open.
It was, and no one
gets too political, but they took a ton of heat. Yep. If you remember, the press was really, really hammering on Georgia.
Yep.
And then they opened up first. They had a little bit of an increase.
Yep.
Everybody, we told you so. We told you. Since then,
yep.
You know what? It's kind of like the Sweden model, right? It's
exactly.
A more open, you go to the supermarket here, you can tell the people that are from out of town because they all wear masks.
Yep.
And the people that live here, probably 75% don't wear masks.
It's the Sweden
now you
model.
could say, hey, we're not respectful, we're not responsible. I get the politics of it all. I'm just saying the facts of the matter are, up here in this environment where you're outside all the time,
exactly,
and people tend to be a lot less wearing masks,
a lot more independent.
And they still respect social distance. I mean, people don't, and we're probably a little close. But
when I went when I went to get my apples, is you could see who the people were because they all came up from Atlanta. They're all masked up, and the lady working behind the. I was like, oh shit! I said I forgot my mask. I have my 1984 mask. I forgot in the car. But then I saw the lady behind the desk. She was not masked up, and she's very, very pleasant to me. She's like, hello, and I was like, oh, thank. And I was like,
I'll tell you a funny story. We have a couple of big box stores here. We have a Walmart, we have a Home Depot, and they had corporate mandates, right? We're going to go mask everywhere. So they started enforcing. Everybody's like, oh, great, they're going to enforce it. Big brother, because I have to. Their corporate mandate. It lasted about 2 weeks, and they started not enforcing it because they had so many people that wouldn't. They'd walk right by them, and they were like, what do we do? And it just happened over and over and over again. So they finally just said, you know what, we're just. And now you can go to Home Depot, you can go to Walmart, you can go to supermarkets, and half the people aren't wearing masks. It's not enforced. It is interesting when you travel out of this area or into this area. You really see that. I'm sure like Idaho's the same way, different areas, South Dakota, different areas have a different philosophy around it. And I don't know that you could really look at our case rates or fatalities and say, oh, they're really suffering because of it. I don't think the numbers support that.
No, they don't. Absolutely.
I don't think we are.
It's nuts. And it's actually,
maybe we will.
Did you see the video about these in England and UK about the guy, the woman was at a funeral for her husband, and they were 6 feet apart. You saw freaking scumbags. I'm sitting there thinking, at some point, The rabble is going to say enough of this crap, just like they've done up here, and say we're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Screw you guys.
The woman was a widow. She was crying. She was really upset. So the son went over to calm her down, and the funeral director came up and said, "No, 6 feet," and pushed them apart.
Friggin' scum bags. And hey, at some point, people say no. So that sounds like it's happening here.
This will eventually pass. We all know that.
You're too
Probably
diplomatic. I'm pissed. Yeah, November 4th. Don't hold that against Fritz. That I'm making him political. He's not being overly political.
I will say I am intentionally non-political in my blog, just because I respect people with different opinions. Same with personal finance. You know, some people may want to invest in real estate. Some people may want to buy stocks. It doesn't matter. We have a lot more in common than we do apart. And if politics is the only area we disagree, well, then let's focus on those areas that we do agree. You know, the charity that my wife runs, it's probably 50% liberal, 50% Democrat or conservative. And we've just kind of said, because the tension is so intense right now in the whole country, we said, you know what, we don't talk politics on dog builds. We're all here for the dogs.
The dogs, exactly.
And it's all about the dogs. That's what we have in common. That's what and we have a great time, you know. And there's raging liberals, raging conservatives, and we all just, you know, hug each other and have a great time. It's you can choose what you focus on.
Well,
just don't focus on it.
It's like I said with when I was telling you about Michael Edison, that guy, you know, we're having a debate, and people were like, or not people, we had some crazy goons on who have since nuked off the channel, but he's like, why aren't you guys blah, blah, blah. It's like, because we agree more than we disagree.
Right.
It's the way most people are. Most people are just, you know, they're just trying to live their own lives, take care of themselves. By the way, Fritz's daughter used to be a cop. I just want to be FYI. So there's a level of respect for police that that especially a woman cop. Can you imagine being a woman cop today?
23 years old.
Oh, how much she, like $110? How much she weigh?
Yeah, she's pretty tough. She's about 5'11". And she's pretty tough. She's adopted.
Oh, I was gonna say,
my wife's like 5 feet tall. But like what? Yeah. But you know, it's funny. She was a cop in Carrollton, Georgia, as a matter of fact.
All right.
And her husband was in the military, and they got transferred out to the Pacific Northwest. And
is he in the Army or what?
Yeah, he's
branch?
in the Army.
Okay, gotcha.
And fortunately, it's not easy to transfer law enforcement from one state to another. So when she got out there, she wanted to get back into law enforcement, but you had to go all the way back to step 0. It would have been like a 9-month hiring process, and then police academy, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, you know what? I'll just get a job in retail. We're not going to be here that long. And we are so thankful, because look at what's happened in, you know, Seattle, Portland.
Because they're in Tacoma.
They were right in the middle of it. And she could have been, you know, in that. So we're very thankful that she kind of got out of it by default. So, okay, let's see what else we got.
Let's see. So Fritz, love your book and choice in Fifth Wheels, Own a Reflection, whatever that is.
Good. Yeah, that's what we got. We got a reflection. Where's that one at? Oh, Reflection 28. Oh, good. Oh, you got the bunkhouse. Good for you. Yeah, we love our reflection. There's an awesome Facebook group, by the way, for Grand Design owners. Grand Design is like the Ford, and the Reflection is like the F-150. It's the model number. So Grand Design is the parent company, and they've got a Facebook page with like 35,000 people. If you have a question about your reflection, you put it out there. If you're traveling and you have an issue with something, instantly you'll get 20 responses on people that have had the same problem. They figured out how to fix it. It is the best way to travel with a reflection. It's the most active group I've ever seen, and really, really helpful. So if you're not aware of that, Bill, that's something to be aware of. We love our reflection too.
Rob says
free on Kindle.
Free on Kindle Unlimited, which you'll get paid for. You know you do that, right? When people read your book for free, you do get residual from that.
Do you?
Oh,
cool.
Absolutely.
Hey,
I make freaking
download it for free, man. Take it.
I probably make almost $800 a month on people read my books on Kindle Unlimited for free. Yeah, probably not.
Yeah,
$600.
People read your book. I don't know if people read mine.
Someone said Fritz, yours is the best book they ever read on financial planning. I almost had to nuke that guy because I said, wait, what about my books? I'm just joking. What was the percentage of your what was the percentage over your expected expenses you use?
What was the percentage?
I think it was a percentage under, because you had expected Yeah, right here. Tony says, I bought Fritz's book and I couldn't recommend a better book. You're banned, Tony.
You're awesome, Tony. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either.
Health insurance makes me nervous. Yeah, you're right to be nervous, Patty. It's a big issue. It is one of the biggest issues if you're going to retire before age 65, no doubt about it.
Take the time to learn the ACA stuff. It's you just got to, because it is a freaking nightmare.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I know people, that's not just, when I went on ACA, I'd say I'd rather do anything than this. I would literally rather jump off a bridge into a starving group of white sharks than sit through the ACA stuff, because it's not Obama's fault. It's not the government's fault. It's just there's so much information there. It's impossible to figure out. And Under my employee's retirement health insurance, I pay $700 a month as a single, and that's subsidized. If you're not grandfathered, you pay $1,200.
So there you go.
And he's in Connecticut.
That's consistent with what we were talking about. Yeah.
For Medicare, I pay $400 a month with supplements. And if your retirement income is over 500, then you'll pay $600 a month just for,
So it's means tested.
Well, still, if your retirement income is over 500,000, you pay $600 a month just for Medicare. I think you can swing that.
I'd love to have retirement income over 500.
Best insurance for early retiree. Man,
I wouldn't know how to answer that. It's going to depend where you're at. Every state has different insurance policies that are available. You can't answer that on a general basis.
How do you manage the decision to retire from your job if you're able to because of pension, but you have younger kids that you have to put through college? Any recommendations? Good question.
I'll tell you what, David. To me, it's just math. What I did is I built a spreadsheet through age 95, and I basically for every year I projected what our expenses were going to be and what our income was going to be. So here comes Social Security. We're going to defer until age 72. So I just time seriesed out all of our expenses. To me, you just do that, and you put in, let's say you got 8 years of college you got to pay. You chunk in 8 years of college out there, and you make sure you got enough money to pay for it. It's just part of the math. I don't think it's a big question mark. It's just you got to make sure you got money for it.
Did your daughter go to college?
She did. Yep, and we paid for it.
Okay,
where's she went to West Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, girl. Yeah, right.
Yeah, Gilbert. Okay, that's why she was. Yeah. My parents paid for my college education, so we said, you know what? They paid for mine. We're going to pay for our daughters, and that's we kind of took the pay it forward approach. And
did she get like Zell or anything like that, or did he?
You mean the
Zell Miller or the
Hope?
Yeah,
Hope. She got Hope for a while, but you have to maintain above a certain grade point. She slipped below that. Yeah, thanks to us. I'll tell you one little trick that we used. This is kind of cute. She was debating between going to Georgia schools where you get a Hope scholarship. It's state funded subsidies basically. Or we used to live in Kentucky. She loved Kentucky. She was thinking about going to UK, University of Kentucky. So we started looking at the out-of-state tuition going to Kentucky versus the in-state with a Hope scholarship in Georgia. It was huge, right? Yeah. So, she's 17 years old, 18 years old. We're like, hey, Maddie, so tell you what, that you've been wanting to get a car, right? We probably would have got our car anyway. I can say that now because she's grown. If you stay in state, we'll give you $10,000 towards a car of your choice. We saved more than $10,000 in 1 year, right? She doesn't know. She's like, oh, okay. She started looking on, Auto Trader. Right. She bought a Mustang and she stayed in state, and we got a 6-month payback on the investment.
And she loves her parents that much more. I love you, Dad. And parents like, yeah. Oh man, Maddie is a cop who bought a Mustang. He's married to an Army guy.
That's it.
Oh,
that's my daughter.
Man, freaking.
Now she has a Jeep. So.
With a square.
She's got like a big, it's up on the lifters. I mean, she's crazy.
With a circle headlights or square headlights,
it's an older Jeep. It's probably still got circles.
All right, that's funny.
Anyway, yeah. Okay.
Let's see. How do you? We talked about that. Rule 55. You want me to go in there? You know that?
Okay. I took the last one.
Just Rich. So when did you quit your job? When you're 55?
55.
All right.
Yep.
So when Fritz left his job, if he would have left at 55, post 54, so you got to be 55 or above, you can then take the money out of your 401k, your employer-sponsored plan, without paying a penalty. Right. You cannot roll that money to an IRA and do the same. You've got to leave it in that employer-sponsored plan, and you have access to it without penalty. Not without tax, just without penalty. The drawback is that
you don't need to wait till 59 and a half.
Exactly. Yep. 100% right. Now, but there is an exception. If you are a LEO, they have this post 49. If you're a law enforcement officer, a border patrol agent, a first responder of some sort, EMT is post 49. If it's a 403B, the TSP qualifies as well. It's nuts. So if you are in law, it's such a smoking deal. But again, you have to leave the money at the previous employer. So one of the things I tell who has that, Rich, is that, man, if you have old IRA money, all right, it's okay to roll that to, if your new employer allows you to roll that to your 401k, because now your 401k through that new employer, even if you were able to have it from an old employer, you roll it to an IRA, you go into a new job, you roll it from that old IRA into your new 401k if the employer allows it. It's up to the employer. Well, guess what, man? If you're post 55, you separate from service and you have a 401k at the old employer from which you just separate from service. Did you do that? Did take the money?
but I did. I was debating retiring at age 54 or age 55. Yeah. The math said I could have retired at age 54. we talked about earlier, wanting to be conservative.
Right.
And so I was like, you know what? That was one of the reasons I said, I'm going to wait one more year. Number one, it gave me a little bit more of a cushion. But number two was it opened up the rule of 55. So if we needed it, and I didn't think we would, right? We had all the after-tax money in place. Make sure you do. If you are depending on your 401k or anything like that, make sure you have enough money to bridge you to get to that, right? If you have to wait to 59 and a half, make sure you have enough after-tax money to get you there. That's number one. I thought we did have enough after-tax money, but just to be safe, by waiting one more year, I had access to all that 401k money if we decided we needed to tap it, which we haven't needed to do. I've done Roth conversions, but you could have done that anyway.
How did you build up that after-tax money?
We sold our house in Atlanta.
Gotcha.
I took probably the last 2 years, maybe 3 years of my work, knowing that we were going to retire and knowing that, most of our savings we'd always done before tax. We were getting our taxable income down. So we were heavy in before tax IRA, 401k type money. So the last couple of years, I undersaved in the 401k and started saving more in the after tax to build up that liquidity bucket. So I took a tax hit. I could have saved taxes a little bit. I was in high income earning years, but that's okay. You got to have that liquidity in retirement.
Man. Could not agree
and
more.
then the bonuses,
all tax,
100% into after tax. Any extra money, all went into bucket one.
I think that's such a good strategy. Can I take a payout from my company, then take a part-time job and use the 401k withdrawals under Rule 55 to supplement my income 58.5? Yes, as long as you absolutely, as long as you don't roll it to an IRA for sure. So we're the comments are quite a bit below. Okay, so
we're these guys probably wrote this 45 minutes
exactly.
ago. Yeah, I get that.
Patty's just bagging on Connecticut. Right on, Patty. Fritz doesn't have any investment income.
I do have investment income, but I just roll it back in. I don't pull it out.
My man Dan, who's fixing to move to New Hampshire from Massachusetts, says he's going to buy your book.
Take it
Kudos to you. With the clubs and the tax board, I do have deadlines and external pressure. You'd be better to read to give you presentation when the meeting is. Dan says he wants the Wellington book. No pressure.
Dan, what time do you need to be out of here, buddy? We'll make sure we get your line will get wet this afternoon.
The lifestyle creep. Yep. They talk about it a lot because after never shown up on YouTube. He's out there, man. He's out there.
He's ugly.
You guys are not wearing masks. Oh my goodness. There's Mary. All right. So I had the same experience when I was home for the first time in our marriage. My husband took a while to get used to it. Shift is permanent. Okay. Let's see. What WFH is great. Okay. Until your management realizes if you can do your job 100% remotely, so someone in India can do that.
You do increase the risk of outsourcing, Dave. That's a good point. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Yeah. Yep. I wonder if that's. I wonder though. I completely agree. I just. But then someone in AI can do it even half the cost of the guy in India. You see what I'm saying? So. Save on. It's funny because who was I? This lady was spending $70 a week on. She lived in Long Beach, California, and worked someplace. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's like a 23-mile drive, but it's actually like an hour and a half commute.
Sure, in LA.
She was spending $70 a week on gas, plus eating out all that stuff. So just think, if you're working from home, you don't have the wear and tear on your car. You're not spending the gas. You're not spending all that time and eating crap. I'm just thinking of the money you're saving there too. He had it happen as a software engineer. My ex-wife had it happen as a medical transcriptionist. Yeah, with the work from. But I mean, that's the issue is that
she screwed everything up. I can appreciate that. We had some stuff outsourced to India at my last job, and it's not as easy as, hey, you just save a bunch of money. It can lead to some problems.
Like Vinyl says, he says exactly. Costs in India aren't that low, and exactly.
Yeah, she screwed everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Up.
40K a year. She's Fort Valley, Georgia. I don't even know where that is. Any idea where that is?
I don't know where that is. No.
The software engineers are really good and spoke excellent. Okay, here's John. So 409A plans, non-qualified deferred comp can transfer to an IRA.
Where are you seeing that? Oh, up there. Okay.
John, I don't know.
I don't know 409A. Deferred comp.
If it's non-qualified, I don't see how it could, to be honest with you.
I don't.
Maybe an after tax. I don't know.
I'm not sure how deferred comp works. I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know either.
Sorry.
Let's see. Dave not being a man. Okay, let's just
India stuff.
Yeah, let's go down. Here's Kiko. Why does Josh recommend that we convert Roth? Oops. Oh boy. All right. Why is
401k
Josh
Roth
rec
IRA after quit working?
to Roth IRA, but traditional 401k should go to the next company that instead? Okay. So you definitely want to convert your Roth 401k to a Roth IRA because there's no RMDs, Kiko on the Roth IRA.
That's one thing a lot of people don't know. If you have Roth money in your 401k, those are forced into a required minimum distribution, just like a IRA pre-tax when you're 72. It's not a taxable event because it's a Roth, but you can't keep the money in there growing. If you move it from a 401k into an IRA, the RMD doesn't apply. That's something I didn't realize that till after I retired. So I'm going to roll. I have a Roth in my 401k, but I am gradually rolling that into a Roth IRA. Now they've got a really good fixed income plan in my 401k that I want to keep. So I'm not in a hurry to do it, but definitely before I get to age 72, I'm going to do that. So I don't get a forced distribution out of that.
Good.
So that's
could not agree more. It doesn't it makes no sense to have a Roth 401k once you're at 72.
Right.
It's nuts. On the other hand, the reason what we just talked about, why you'd want to roll your old 401k to your new 401k is the post 55 rules, Kiko.
Yep.
Once you're at 55 and a half, and once you're at 59 and a half, I just roll to an IRA.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep. Let's see. Hendo, Elon Musk and SpaceX will test the northern U.S. and southern Canada.
There we go. Low-level satellite high speed. I told you. See, I wasn't crazy, and it was even Google. I said Elon Musk. There we go.
Low-level satellite high speed internet is running by
the end of the year. Remember I said dirigibles or whatever you call it? I knew there was something planned. They're watching us.
Like what?
Hey, Elon.
That's nuts. Is that true?
I think there's something to that. I've read something about
Hey, just order the book, man.
Hey, good man, Mark. Appreciate it.
You didn't wait for my link so I could get that sweet money.
Hey, you heard me on Choose FI. Thank you very much. You just scrolled back up. Sorry. Mr. Whittam. I've listened to this guy on Choose FI.
Where?
It's the next one down. Keep going. Choose FI. I like the Choose FI guys. I've done a couple podcasts with them, and I really have a lot of respect for Brad and Jonathan. They're sharp guys. Someone just
emailed me, says I heard about you on Choose FI. So I don't even know what Choose FI is. What is it?
Choose FI is it's mainly aimed at the fire community, early retirees.
Oh,
but
FI.
It has exploded. It has become a movement. They've got, I don't know. I think they've got.
What is it? A website or something?
It's a podcast, but they do book publishing now. They do YouTube. They're everywhere. And I'd have to look. They got a Facebook group that has 60,000 members or something. I mean, they're really big, and they're mainly aimed at the fire. But I would say, even if you're not involved in the fire movement, the financial independence, retire early. If you're 50 and you haven't saved anything for retirement, man, listen to the Choose FI guys, because they're all about aggressive savings, retiring early. Well, if you're 50 and don't have anything saved yet, you can apply those same principles, aggressive savings. Instead of retiring early, you're going to be able to retire in 15 years, by following those principles and get out at 65. Whereas if you don't do anything, you're hosed. So I think the fire principles can apply even to older people that haven't done a good job of saving for retirement. So Choose FI, I recommend them. They're good folks.
Actually, it's funny because I had a guy email me just 2 days ago, Fritz. I think he's like 68. He's drawing $1,800 a month off Social Security. He has 100,000 saved. He's like, "Do you think I'm hosed?" He said, "Because there ain't magic you can pull from me, Josh." I said, "It's just not, man. It's just, you're gonna have to." I mean, I don't know what his expenses are, but I'm assuming it's more than $1,800 a month. I said, you can't be 68 with only Social Security and 100,000. I mean, you can, but it depends on your expenses. If $1,800 a month isn't your expenses. Now,
there was a Wall Street or a USA Today headline that came out today. I didn't read the article that said, "Can you live on $18,000 a year?" That raises people's eyebrows. Well, of course not, right? But that's what you're going to be living on, like this guy is. That's 18,000 a year, right? Roughly. If you don't save and you're just going to live on Social Security, guess what? You're going to be living a pauper's life,
Maybe.
Or you keep working.
Or, well, it depends on your expenses.
Right.
But in this case, the fact that he reached out to me tells me that his expenses were a lot higher than his income could be.
I feel for people like that. I hear from them a lot on my blog. It's sad. And the problem is, by the time you realize it, you're in your late 50s, early 60s. It's pretty tough. It's pretty tough to dig out of that hole.
A lot of times because divorce. The divorce will put both parties back. So if you can avoid divorce, man, do it. Obviously, if you're being beaten down, don't. But if you can somehow reconcile before you divorce, especially in your latter part of your 50s, man, a divorce sets people both sides.
Yep.
Let's see. I saw someone said
healthcare
if you're a vet. Yeah, I don't. I hear so many different things on that. You can get VA. I mean, look, I'm a veteran. I don't know that to be true, Mark. So I think you just have to. I don't know. There's lots of. I forgot what they're called. VSA, Veteran Service Administrators or something like that. They're like volunteer people who can help you with your VA benefits. But I don't know. I mean, I've heard so many different things, and so many people say, Josh, because I don't hear that well, and they say, Josh, you can get VA to cover your hearing aids. And I said, I actually went through and I applied. They said, nope, they denied me. And I said, okay. And then other people said, oh, they should never have done that. But I'm like, I don't know. So you got base? You don't have a base in here, do you?
No.
Okay, you have a base in that?
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh,
just jumped.
All right, there we go. My man. All right, so all right, man, Dan. All right. Well, why is she's talking smack here? Let's see what this lady's talking about. Oh boy.
Oh, Anna.
Why you gotta be like that?
My goodness.
Whoa, Anna, not a happy person.
We're talking about liberal stuff. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but we're gonna put why you gotta be like that? And then call us mean names. All right, thanks. May move from Florida to Georgia, more income tax, Social Security income, interest income.
You know, everybody says, hey, Florida's great because it's tax free. My argument is, and I've not done the math, you'd have to do it yourself, but you know, it takes a certain amount of money to run a state.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting income tax, well, your property tax is probably higher, your sales tax is probably higher. You know, at some point to run Tallahassee or whatever the capital is, it costs them the same as it does to you know, run Atlanta. So I think don't look at just the lack of income tax in the state and say, oh, that's where I want to go. I'll save all this money. Look at it holistically, because there's a lot of other stuff that affects your tax rates.
Never mind homeowners insurance. Insurance in Florida is nuts because of the hurricanes.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal. And frankly, don't forget when he hits 65, I forgot who asked that question. When he hits 65, Georgia is basically tax-free for most income or most retirees. When you're 65, you get, I think, $65,000 a year of retirement income tax-free. Yeah. So people say, I got to go 5 miles north for tax-free income, or I got to go, you know, to Florida. No, you don't. Georgia, man, I tell you, it's nuts because we're sandwiched by Florida and Tennessee, and people think Georgia's crazy high income tax. It's just not. It's always the feds, by the way. It's never the state. I mean, people, California, like, it's just not that bad. It's the feds that get you. It's not the state. We got Eric from Wisconsin. Is that where you're from?
Nope, I'm from Michigan.
Michigan, right on.
Wisconsin's a high tax state.
Yo, Wisconsin, horrible. Yeah. Nebraska, Kansas, all those Midwest places, man. Starlink. Oh, I keep doing that, man. Let's see.
Starlink is going to be another overpromised, underdelivered thing from Elon. So that's your question: is it going to be real? GSFI is pretty big, more so than the mustachian movement. Now, I'd agree with that.
If you save $100K a year from 50 to 65, that's right on.
Yeah, that's right.
American Funds Growth from America has lost its performance the last 10 years compared to the Vanguard large cap growth. Interesting.
Susie Orman. Yeah. What'd she say? You need 20 million, I think, to retire. Yeah. So you gotta have fun with that.
But you can buy her credit card thing prepaid.
Yeah, that's right. Both of you are going to be in the acknowledgement section of our teaching free enterprise module. Hey, thank you very much. That's awesome. Thank you, Ray. Thanks
to both of you for influence on my editing of the unit. Right on. Just make sure you send us a sweet, sweet money, Ray. I was taught by my parents, says Gina, one spouse, one house, one job was the key to financial success, and get a 15-year mortgage. Hey, I
can't argue with that.
Can't argue with that. Smart. Taught by my parents, one spouse, one house. I liked how that rhymes.
Yeah.
Makes it easy to remember. One spouse, one house. I'm only triggered by envy of your setting. Oh, Ray. That's what I learned on the tax board. We figure out how much we need, and that's what we have to charge in taxes.
There you go.
New York property tax here above. Okay, North Florida property tax, $1,200 a year.
Oh, $1,200. That's pretty good.
That's quite good.
Yeah.
And no state.
How much is your house insurance?
Exactly.
I bet that's one thing. My son-in-law, my daughter and son-in-law are moving to very southern Alabama, and they were shocked because they're in the hurricane zone. They're only 40 miles north of the Panhandle, and their property tax is going to be like $3,000 a year.
The homeowners insurance.
Insurance, and it's not that, it's probably $200,000 house or something. So you pay a lot more for property insurance in Florida. I know that's one thing, but
you're in hurricane.
But the property tax is cheap. That's good.
The problem too in Florida is that there's not that many insurance companies.
Yeah.
It used to just be the one with Citizens, and I don't know if I don't know how it works anymore, but it used to be this like USA didn't even underwrite people for it. I don't know if that's changed. I don't think so. So you had very limited options. It was basically subsidized by the state.
Yep.
And if that thing ever goes south because another big hurricane goes through there, whoo, Nelly.
Yep.
House insurance is well, ain't bad, Gina. Hell, she's paying $1,200 a year in property tax, $1,600. I mean, Florida's cheap. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than Connecticut, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey. But comparatively speaking, a lot of people think Georgia is nuts and Florida is a panacea. It's just not.
Yeah,
it's they're both decent for sure. Tennessee is probably better because it has low property taxes, no state income tax, but their sales tax is high.
Yep.
How do you avoid paying high sales tax? You either drive to Georgia or you produce your own food. I don't know if food is probably exempt from sales tax, but if you don't consume that much stuff, you don't pay high sales tax, which is why I like sales tax as a consumption tax. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And but it is regressive, but it is a consumption tax. Don't buy it. You don't have to pay the tax on it. Right here, Chuck says thought on owning rental property. Well, you did it kind of, sort of.
Yeah. I think it depends where you're at. I think it really depends what you have to pay for the property versus what the rent revenue is that you can get.
What's your thinking in that, like in terms of numbers? Like, what would you say is a good?
I know in our case where it worked for us, we were in a situation where the rental income covered all the expenses. We had a mortgage on the rental home, so it covered the mortgage, covered, the insurance, covered the utilities, and then, a bit more than that. And we knew the occupancy rate was going to be good because we were in a hot real estate, rental. We did vacation rentals, so they were short rentals. Do
you have any parties where people are freaking go insane?
No, we were really pleasantly surprised. We rented for 3 or 4 years, never had an issue. So we were fortunate. But when we decided to sell that place and buy this place that we're in now, we debated keeping it because we knew we were making money on it. Right. We decided not to. And the reason was the administration of it. Even though it wasn't that burdensome, it's just something I didn't want to do in retirement. It was one more hassle, one more thing you got to do. Yeah. And I was retired. That was kind of like work. So yeah, it's certainly a viable option. Just, be aware that real estate's cyclical. And if you buy at the peak and the market drops and you're stuck holding you're underwater on the mortgage, it's not guaranteed. But what is these days? It's a viable option. A lot of people go that route.
The thing about I still think real estate is actually still a good investment in some capacity. Interest rates aren't going up anytime soon. They're just not. In fact, you were saying your daughter got like a 2.6 loan.
2.6% fixed. First home.
It's not changing anytime soon. And so because of that, you're thinking, okay, on top of that, the bonds as an alternative. Someone asked about bonds retirement. I think someone said bonds.
They're asking about muni bonds.
About muni bonds specifically.
Yeah. Somebody said, what do you think about muni bonds? Oh, and they were saying, do bonds have a place if you've got a lot of cash in bucket one? Do you still need bonds? So there were 2 bond questions.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Fire away.
I'll talk on the muni ones. You can talk about bonds in the portfolio. Munis, personally, I think they make sense if you're high income because they're tax free. You really have to look at it on an after tax basis and look at regular bonds taxed versus muni bonds tax free. And I did a fair amount of muni bonds in my last 5 years of work because I was in a higher income tax bracket and they're tax free. Now that I'm in retirement, I'm not investing in it. I'm still holding them, but I'm not growing it because my tax rates come down. So I think it really comes down to what's your marginal tax rate. And if you're going to hold some bonds anyway, and you're in a high enough marginal tax bracket, I think munis make sense. So
yes. Did you all right, so
I had a mutual fund.
Okay.
I didn't own individual bonds.
I'm not a fan of municipal bonds ever, frankly. Okay. Just the only reason because when it comes to the asset location stuff, but I get what Fritz is saying too. It all situation dictates.
I kept them in my after-tax account.
Yeah.
Obviously. Because they're tax free. That's the reason you'd only hold it in your after tax. You'd never put it in a 401k or anything like that.
No. I don't even know if they even let you.
I don't know.
Yeah. So Fritz and I are coming at 2 different things on regular bonds though. So I'm still in so I think people have got to make the determination, are they Fritz the decumulation or they're Josh the accumulation, if that makes sense. And if you're Fritz, having bonds as a reprieve from the volatility inherently makes sense. Going back to my Wellington fund, I've talked about a million times a Sunday. Facts are Wellington fund was only down one of the 3 years to start the aught. So 2001 and 2, Wellington Fund was just down in 2002. That's it. And the reason was, well, they had large cap value stocks, but they also had a third of it in bonds, and bonds did fine. 2008, government bonds are up. Corporate bonds got smoked a little bit, but not nearly to the extent of the market. And so if you're pulling money out and you get a 9%, 12%, and 22% consecutive decline on the S&P 500, as we did in 2001 and 2, you're in a world of hurt, man.
Yeah.
But if you're pulling money, if you're putting money in and that happens, you don't give two craps. So who cares? I'm actually buying that 100% right.
Yeah.
So you got to determine, am I investing or am I taking? One of those two things.
Offense versus defense.
100%.
And I look at bonds exactly as you say. I've got bucket one, which is 3 years of cash, no return, doesn't matter. It's just to cover our expenditures for the next 3 years. Bucket two, I do focus on bonds.
Yeah.
The reason being, if you get into a bear market that lasts more than 3 years and my cash is gone and I'm forced to sell something, I don't want to have to sell stocks if they haven't recovered yet. So bonds, exactly what you're saying, they give you that cushion. Now you're not going to get the returns on it, but we're at the point where we don't necessarily need to have as an aggressive return, because we're using a very conservative withdrawal rate. So
all comes down to expenses. You're using a conservative withdrawal rate, but the issue is you cannot recoup on a decline like that if you're pulling money out.
Right.
Which is one of my horrible pet peeves about Dave Ramsey. So Dave Ramsey, you know Dave Ramsey.
Oh yeah.
So he has a video where someone said, "I got $1 million. How much can I withdraw?" And I think he said 80,000 a year. And I was like, dude, that's just. I'm sitting there thinking this is nuts. And I actually did a comment. It was a pretty elaborate, which I turned into a blog post. I said, if that was happen in 2000, this person's out of money by 2012. And all these people, these Dave Ramsey cultists, were like, they're like saying it was the weirdest thing, Fritz. I'm like, there's absolutely no one in the right mind who say you could withdraw 80,000. I don't care if it's fixed. I don't care if it's 8% or 8% here. No one's going to say that. And yet he was, because he's saying on average you get 10% a year. And I was like, this is insanity. And all these people really upset, like, you don't get what he's saying. I was like, I literally got what he's saying because I watched the friggin' video, and he said you can withdraw 80,000 or 70. It doesn't matter. I just showed you. On the other hand, though, if you had the Wellington Fund during that time, I'm not saying you could draw $80,000 a year, but I am saying, because Wellington is what Fritz was saying. You got cash, you got bonds, you got stocks. You have that reprieve from the huge volatility of the market. And I just think if you're in, I do want to point something else out too. Man, Fritz did this so well, is that before he retired, he built up his cash money. He was willing to pay a little bit more in taxes to have cash on. I said this all the time. The last 2 years before you retire, build up your cash. It's if nothing else, will let you sleep at night.
Don't wait until you retire. That's one thing people, I'll put the bucket system in place when I retire. No, if you think about it, people have asked me, when should I start filling bucket one? And, a way to think about it is, if you've got 3 years of cash in bucket one, theoretically, you could start about 3 years before you retire and put in 1 year's worth of spending in cash. Year two, before retirement, you put the second year in. Year three, you put the third year in. By the time you retire, you got 3 years of cash.
Oh, man.
Have the liquidity, dry powder done on the shelf before your last day of work.
After tax too. You've already paid tax on it. You don't have to worry about it.
After tax.
What my man says, what percentage you guys, I thought someone asked you, Fritz, how many years? Very good.
Okay, so Sergio, how many years of income between bucket ones and bucket two? I carry 3 years in bucket one and about 5 years in bucket two. If you do the math and you look at what that means from an asset allocation standpoint, you can get by with as an aggressive as 70. If you do a 3% withdrawal rate, so just do the math, 33 extra, you'd have to have, if you spend 100,000 a year, you'd have to have 3.3 million, 33 times your annual spending. And if you do 3 years in cash, 5 years in bonds, you could actually have 70% stocks, 30% bonds and cash, and still have buckets 1 and 2 fully filled with cash and bonds and still be 70% equity. So I'm not that heavily into stocks. I'm probably 50-50 right now. I'm more conservative. But you can still have a pretty aggressive portfolio. It's just make sure you've got enough stuff that you can spend if the stocks really crater for an extended period of time. To Josh's point, that you're not selling in the downturn. That's really the critical thing. Right now, I could go 7 or 8 years and never sell a stock.
If you guys are wondering why I keep looking off, I'm just looking at the trees. It's
pretty,
just freaking gorgeous. Could you ever, do you have like a no cut tree zone ordinance or anything? Could you cut some down and start a garden back there?
I can do anything I want. There's no zoning or no rules up here.
No HOA?
No HOA. I don't do HOAs.
Oh man, I'm just seeing this view of just the tree line, the canopy is just freaking.
Well, no, keep talking. Keep talking.
Yeah.
I'll just do
Oh
this.
yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, that's right. I can keep this. There you go.
There you go. Keep talking.
Look at that. I could stare at that all day long. I'm just envisioning cutting some trees down and putting a nice big fat couple raised beds in there, and just having oh man.
It's not open. Now we got a bit of an open space in the back.
Oh,
The back of the property. We've got an area that's a little bit flatter, and we've opened it up a little bit. So yeah.
How much? What are you on an acre? 2 acres?
We have 3.5 acres.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me get this.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a delay. There we go.
Yeah.
Now we're back.
Someone. We still got. All right, cool. Thoughts that we talk about rental properties. All right, so maybe a little bit more on rental properties. Have you ever? And you have any familiarity with people who've done it? Positive.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's no doubt it can be a viable means. You know, there's a whole lot of people that blog and YouTube about rental income. It's a very viable approach. I would just encourage people, if you're going to go that route, really think through, do you want to spend your time managing properties? If you hire a property company to do it, you're going to pay a lot for that.
Yep.
So if you're going to do it, I would encourage you to do it, self-manage the properties to make the most money you can make. And obviously, if you're going to do that, you're getting paid to manage them, but you're going to be managing them.
Yep.
So, you know, you got to have a maintenance guy you can trust or be able to do it yourself. You've got to be willing to look for tenants. You know, there's some work, but it's no doubt it's a proven model.
Oh, yeah.
You know, no doubt. So I'm not against it. I just don't want the work.
No, I'm too lazy.
Yeah.
I'm not handy enough either, and I never will be.
Yeah.
It's like I was talking to a client the other day from a Northwest PA, and he built, he like this cabin, he did all himself. He did the whole. I was like, like he knows how to do it, but he likes it.
Yeah.
I would look at that and say, hey, I don't have the capacity, and I don't have the patience, and I don't have the skill set. I don't want to do anything like that.
Yeah.
Hell, it's freaking change the toilet is a pain enough for me. I'm just like, I don't even want to do that.
I'm with you.
I just want to sit out and look at my raised bed and hear the birds and chill and do live streams. That's all I want to do. But people, if you like it,
you can make a killing. No doubt.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right,
hey, you have a friend in LJ. That's cool.
LJ,
just down the road.
and
Has contractors are a big problem up here. Notice any problems with Blue Ridge?
Well,
that's one thing, Dave, you get into when you're in an area like Blue Ridge that's
Yeah.
booming. It's a bunch of retirees. They come up here. They love the area. There aren't a lot of support people that are moving in the area, right? It's just the people that lived here before.
Right.
So suddenly your population that needs
Right.
serviced is doubled, but the core population that's servicing those people has stayed the same.
Yeah.
It gets very hard to find all those resources. That's a great point. I hadn't thought about bringing that up. But yeah, that's a big issue.
How long did it time to find the guy who did this?
We were fortunate on this one. I had a friend who knew a guy who, it's got, you have to kind of know the network. This guy doesn't advertise. It's all word of mouth, and he's very good. So I was fortunate.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway,
and Fritz got a smoking deal on it. I won't tell you the price, but going through, you're like, damn, I can't. I mean, you got a smoking deal and his quality work, and you see this bit. I mean, you just see the concrete. I mean, just as nuts. And that's insane. And that's, I'm telling you, man, it's kind of like we talk about going to college and stuff. I don't know. The
trades are a viable route. You can make a killing in an area like this doing trades work.
And you get to pick your clients. If someone's being a pain in the butt, when we were having our neighborhood built, there's a guy across the street who's an Air Force guy, of course. Air Force guys, but he wanted to see the blueprint. It wasn't custom house. It was just a freaking, you know what I'm saying? He wanted to make it custom. It's like, it's not and I just remember watching him with the blueprints on the cover, the top of his, the hood of his pickup truck, talking to the sub. Like, I was like, dude, go buy your own custom house, but you got to pay. Anyways, if you're getting a guy like that, you can say, I don't want you. I got so much business.
That's what everybody here says. They're very selective on who they work for, and the people that are a real pain in the butt, you're gonna have a harder time finding somebody to do work for you. Word gets out. Yeah.
Vinyl says, I can't really know what interest rates are in the future. The market always surprises. Yeah, well, we don't know anything, but I just, as my expectations of the Japanification of our society, the changing demographics and the increasing productivity via AI, I don't see interest rates going up anytime soon. Which annual market return percentage do you use? Regular fire groups use 8%. What's your number?
I use 6. When I did my retirement, my cash flow through age 95. Now again, I've got a balanced portfolio, bonds and stocks. So 6% is probably even a little bit optimistic. But what I did is I ran a sensitivity analysis. I had it set up where I could change the return assumption and just let it run out through age 95 and see what it looked like. So again, being conservative, right? I would run it at like 4%. Okay, I'd still be able to get by. I ran at 6%. That's kind of probably realistic. And then I'd run it at 8%. And obviously you got, more than you need. That return assumption has a huge factor, as does inflation, by the way. I also had an inflation adjustment that I could put for all my different spending categories. So if I looked at healthcare, I might inflate that 5% per year. If I looked at housing, well, our house is paid for. All I have is property tax. So you can put in different inflation rates, but you should do that. Use a what if inflation really takes off and the returns stay low? Am I going to survive that? And at least understand those dynamics when you're trying to figure out if you can retire. And don't just use a rule of thumb. Look at various scenarios. That's my advice.
Is that 8% just on stocks, or is it on what exactly? And is that gross of inflation or net?
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to tell. My guess is that's probably stocks only. And it's probably gross.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I hope. Yeah. I use 6.5 on stocks, 2% on bonds, and 1% on cash.
Yeah.
And that's gross. So if you net it, it's 4.5 on stocks, flat on bonds, and negative on cash. Yeah. That's on the Vanguard's capital market model, DCMM. The way this is from Bogle, you take a dividend yield plus earnings growth year over year, and that's what you get for your real return on real return. You'd have to factor inflation, but your return on stocks, you might get some price appreciation. I would not bank on that with a 30. What's the S&P? What's the PE ratio? Like 33 or something like that?
Yeah, I like looking at the CAPE ratio and that as a predictor of future returns. The correlation is really high. There's some really good stuff out there about as stock valuations go up, you better be lowering your return expectations because they're going to come back to, reversion of the mean. The CAPE ratios, the price of stocks, the valuations are going to revert down, which is going to depress future earnings when they're at an elevated state, which they are right now. Yeah. So you got to factor that stuff in.
The cyclically adjusted price to earnings ratio from Robert Schiller. It takes some issue with the kid. Oh, just my man Michael Edison. He did an article kind of talk about CAPE, and it's just as well. We just don't know. That's the issue. We don't know. So be conservative.
Let's touch on this one, Mr. Whidden. He just said what percentage?
Oh wait, it was up here. It was up here. Right here. What percentage you guys think?
What do you think is safe withdrawal rate? I'll tell you, Mr. Whidden. I did. There's a guy. If you haven't read him yet, Early Retirement Now, Big Earn they call him. He has written like a 30-part series on his blog, earlyretirementnow.com, on safe withdrawal rates. The guy's like a PhD. He used to work for the Fed in San Francisco. More than you would ever care to know about it. What matters is he basically updated the Trinity study, which became the 4% rule. He basically did massive amounts of research, and he came out with a number of 3.25% based on a lot of work. So my feeling is 4% is probably outdated if you want to be conservative. I'm using like 3%. And I'm conservative on all my assumptions. So I think, I wouldn't want to use over maybe 3.5%. You might underspend, but you're not going to run out of money, right? No, what do you use?
I use 5.
Use 5. Yeah.
4% rule is based on linear expenses each and every year. And the evidence is
they're chunky. They go down as you get older.
Significantly go down. BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. We got Health and Retirement Survey up in Harvard, up Yale. We got the Yale University Commission, Census Bureau. So all the expenditures show that as you age, your expenses go down. And these 4%, 3.2 is what not Wade Pfau, David Blanchett uses. They say 3. It is Pfau actually. Pfau and Blanchett. It all assumes a linear expenditure each and every year adjusted for inflation, and there's no evidence of that at all. Oh, it drives me up the wall.
Now, let me ask you this. So you use 5%. Do you adjust for inflation, or do you do 5% on your ending net worth at the end of each year?
You adjust for inflation, absolutely.
So you do, because what I've been doing every year, I have an annual process that I go through. So I update my net worth once a year. It's the only time I do it. And I also then look at I call it kind of my retirement assets. I exclude the house, exclude the cars, things like that. Stuff that you can
liquid
spend.
Assets.
I look at liquid assets, and I look at the year ending balance, and I multiply that times 4% to see how that compares to kind of the inflation adjusted 3.25 from when I started retirement. And I kind of look at both of those. My feeling being, if the market really craters, you're going to reduce your spending, right? You're going to adjust your spending.
Holy crap. Imagine that.
Everybody's going to
people tighten their belts when the market goes down.
So I'm not against 5%. If you're willing to adjust it down when the market
that's the issue. It's like just common sense though, like
flexible spending.
You say, look, I'm gonna take 5% a year out, the market's down 20%, I'm gonna tighten my belt,
right?
I'm gonna buy the hot dog instead of the filet.
I'm not against that.
Everyone does that. I mean, just in reality. But and even with that though, the thing about just going back to the 4% rule, if you look on the average was 6%, so you're like sitting there thinking 4%, we had a safe withdrawal rate where we never ran out of money, and it's like, okay, but we also left a lot of potential of fun on the table because we had this antipathy towards having to tighten our belt one time, if that were to happen.
Or you work too long.
I'm sitting there thinking, don't do that, because we're sitting there, just common sense. The market falls 2008. No one is buying a boat in 2008 when they thought they could in 2007 because they said, I can't do that. I don't get it, man. I do get it. It's part of the fear mongering. And I don't think it's necessarily deliberate, Fritz, but I think a lot of people, they have this ingrained, kind of like going back to the Cape, they have it ingrained where they say the market returns have to be lower because I'm like, I don't know. And I do know that what I do know is you got to be freaking flexible.
Right.
And if you're going in there, like you said, if you're going there lock, stock, and barrel, that's not how you retire. You got to retire saying, I'm going in there with the ability to be flexible. However, in my experiences, I've talked to a hell of a lot more people got more money than they know what to do with when they're 82 and their husbands are dead. Right. And they said, man, I never had the chance to go to Germany. And I said, don't miss out on that because you're worried what's going to happen when you're 82.
And most people underspend when you get into retirement because you've been frugal your whole life. That's why we built this workshop. Because I'd read so many people underspend. I said, we're not going to do that. We know we can spend our 3.25. And if we're not spending it, well, guess what? We'll build a workshop because we know we can spend up to that. We're okay. So have a mechanism that you know you're spending what you can spend. Don't overspend, but don't underspend. You know, there's a balance to everything.
Right. And I mean, that just means but you got to know what your expenses are, for heaven's sake. If you don't know your expenses, then you're shooting blind. And that's Fritz, I probably get 5 emails a week on this. Hey, Josh, I got this amount of money. Do you think I'm good to go for retirement? I have no idea. No clue. Until you tell me what the number is you need to spend, nothing else matters. So here's going back to municipal bonds. You can take that right there, my man, Adam Nash.
Adam, I live in New York. Could you put your retirement in New York muni bonds and live off the coupon? I don't know enough about New York bonds, to be honest. I doubt it. I got to think your yield on any kind of bond is very, very low right now. You know, that's the whole thing of, hey, let's just live off dividends. And I see somebody here said their stock portfolio is paying 4.5% final. That's well above average. I think, living off dividends, living off bond yields, man, it would take so much money to be able to do that. Because if you're getting, let's just say S&P's 2% yield and bonds are 0.5%. If you can live on 1 to 2% of your portfolio, hey, knock yourself out. I'd rather do a 4 or 5% safe withdrawal rate and spend some of the capital down, because I don't think you can save enough money to live strictly on yields in this environment, my view.
And y'all says your retirement, and if that sounds to me like a deferred account, which certainly should not be in municipal bonds, Adam, like we talked about before. So if it is, could you put your retirement? It sounds like retirement money, and you don't want to mess. Don't do that. Whoa! Whoa! Look at that big old.
A bee just flying into my studio. We got the door wide open in my studio over here.
Beyond debt, snowball, and debt-free scream, I don't find Dave Ramsey's information be helpful for most people.
He's good on the debt stuff. I'll give him that. That's his strength.
Where do you recommend stashing that cash?
Returns don't matter. I got it in Capital One 360. I got it in Vanguard Money Market Fund. I'm not earning anything.
Could not agree more.
It's not there to make money.
Yep. Like I use cash to cover risk. Could not agree more.
Yeah. It's an insurance policy.
Where'd Patty go? I saw Patty. Patty, should you stop the employer 401k, put all that into the Roth in the last 3 years?
It's individual circumstances. I did do a lot more Roth contributions in my final years, in addition to doing the after-tax stuff, so I'd have liquidity. I knew that I had too much stuff in my before-tax bucket, and I wanted to get some stuff in the Roth. So I took a tax hit and contributed some in the Roth, even though it mathematically might not have been the right thing to do. I wanted to have that diversification once I retired. I think it just has to be, everybody has to look at their individual situation. I think the more important thing in your last 3 years is make sure you've got enough liquid cash so that when you retire, you don't have to sell your stocks.
Could not
That's
agree
that's
more.
more important than whether you do a Roth or not.
Now, but you all say, should you stop your employer 401k? That sounds like your employer match. Don't stop that. I mean,
at least get the match. I never gave up my match.
Yeah.
I was contributing the max in my 401k for decades.
Yep.
In my last couple of years, I just took it down to where I got the match, and that was it.
Man, we are 100% in agreement on that. Don't give up the match. It's free money. And then if you can still do the match, which goes to your traditional, your deferred account, Patty, and then you can still do the Roth 401k if they offer you that. If they don't, if you don't have a Roth 401k at your company, which most companies do nowadays, you still got to get the match. If they don't do a match, I think I would just put it into cash, like Fritz says.
VTSAX or value. Mr. Whittam.
Right there.
I've got a really diversified portfolio by design.
How are you broken down roughly? I mean, you got a bunch of different things.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm roughly 50-50 cash and then stocks and bonds. My stock side has a bit of an international tilt because I feel like domestic's a little bit overvalued. So I've had a international tilt, and I've got a value.
I'll be right back.
You got to go visit the woods. All right, now we can talk about Josh. So let me tell you guys a little secret. You know what? I should take the camera. I'm going to come over there with the computer and. So that's what's nice about living in the woods. You can run out and do that, and we're good. So there's, I don't know if you guys know Paul Merriman, but he's got some pretty good stuff on doing slight tilting in your asset allocation. And I've liked his stuff. So based on reading some of his stuff, basically broadly diversified is all that matters. I don't think tweaking a lot on the edges makes a big difference, but it gives me a little bit better peace of mind to think that maybe I'm being, a little bit intelligent about this stuff. Personally, I think value is undervalued right now relative to growth, which the VTSAX would represent growth. So I do have a little bit heavier tilt in the value side, and I do have a little bit of a tilt in the international side. And the way I do that is I'm rebalancing pretty frequently with the volatility that we're seeing right now. So when the markets take a dip like they did in March, very quickly your asset allocation will tilt. If you're 50-50 and the market goes down 10%, you're no longer 50-50, right? You'd probably be 55-45, something like that, probably 57. Anyway, your asset allocation in stocks would go down. So what I do when the market dips is I take some of the bonds or cash and I move them back over to equities to keep it that 50-50. And as I'm doing that rebalancing, I'm putting it into the value stocks. I'm putting it into international primarily. So that's how I get a little bit of a tilt towards those areas that I think are undervalued. Conversely, when the market's been up, so a couple of weeks ago, my asset allocation was starting to grow on the stock side because I'd been buying stocks in March when the things tanked. So the market had been up a little bit. So I sold some of my VTSAX type stuff, the growth stuff, and I moved it back over to cash and bonds. So when I'm buying on the dips, I'm buying value and international. When I'm selling on the peaks, I tend to be selling the growth because they're the most inflated right now, in my view. So that's how I handle it.
Speaking of which, the market is up. S&P's up 1.75 right now.
Another good day.
1.75%. Crazy.
It is. So I entered the VTSX or value.
And then on top of that, the 10-year is now up to 0.78. So the yield on the 10-year is up to 0.78, which means the prices are going down. That's a pretty significant, look at that.
Look at that move in the last
1 month, last 2 weeks, gone from 0.64 to 0.79.
That's a big move. That's a big
huge
move.
Yeah. Bonds have no volatility. Yeah, they do. Is it magic? Okay, Sergio, if you're drawing less than 4%.
You take this one, I'll follow your lead.
All right. Have you guys been to Jekyll Island? My wife has. You ever been down there? Would you say that's a nice place to retire? It's hot.
If you like the coast, it's nice.
Fritz, I've never been there. Who asked that? Homer. But Fritz says it's hot. It's a nice place. And if you like the coast, it's nice. I have a sneaky suspicion it's probably a lot more expensive down there, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I think Jekyll Island is in high demand for sure. I've never been there. All right. Such great. You got it. Eric says, such great info. You got it, Eric. Mark says, spend more money while you're young after retirement. Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
Sergio, 3% withdrawal rate, tails you win, heads you don't lose. Yeah, I look, man, I got no qualm with that. The concern I got, Sergio, is I don't think most people know what their expenditures are. And it's like a lot of people I get, they say, can I do this? Can I do that? I said, look, I have no clue, but we got to know what your spending is. And it's not that, how hard was it for you to kind of project your spending?
Not hard.
I don't think it's that hard.
What we did, and we've never budgeted, right? I always save 20+% of our savings or earnings my whole life.
Yeah.
Every time I got a pay raise, I would increase my savings, keep consumption the same. So we increased our savings rate through my career. So never really increased our spending a lot. But what we did, so we never tracked our spending. We just said, okay, we're saving 20%, whatever we got left, we can spend because we know we're saving, we're fine. So we never tracked our spending, never budgeted, never had credit card debt, paid cash for cars, had a mortgage, but that was about it. But anyway, about 2 years before I retired, we tracked every dime that we spent for a year because we'd never done it.
Yep.
And I said, I can't project retirement spending without really knowing what we're spending today.
Yeah, totally.
So I tracked everything. I put it into categories. Here's how much we're spending on transportation, housing, taxes, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, okay, what's going to change in retirement? Well, we're going to start traveling. Okay, we got to buy a camper. That's going to cost X. We're going to camp so many nights a year. That's going to cost Y. And we basically looked at what our current spending was, and we projected forward health insurance. Right now it's paid for by my employer primarily. Okay, we're $2,500 a month. We talked about that earlier. You make those adjustments. It's not hard. And you sometimes you're taking a guess. I had no idea what health insurance costs. Well, get on Google. You can figure it out. You can find some direction.
Other people are going to say, go to join a Facebook.
Right.
What's your health insurance?
Right. Yeah. There's ways to find out those areas that you don't know about, and estimate a little bit high.
Exactly.
And that's it. You got your number.
Yep.
No big deal.
And until you do that, though, you have no idea.
Right.
And then people say, well, how should I be invested in stocks or bonds? And this is what there's a guy, Peter Bernstein. He says, when he won the game, stop playing.
Right.
And the scenario is,
that's why I'm only 50%.
Exactly.
Won the game. I don't need to take the risk.
Why take the risk if you don't need to? Look, I like stocks. When I'm retired, if I have a place where I don't need to have that many stocks, I'm not gonna, because I don't want the damn risk. If I want to leave a legacy, I buy life insurance. I left a legacy, a house. I left a legacy for college. I left a legacy with my, hopefully my skills as a dad. But it's gonna be Charlotte and me. We're gonna party like it's 1999. I'm not freaking flying coach so my kids can fly first class. I refuse to do that. It's not because I'm greedy. It's because I freaking raised 4 of them, man. And I tell you what, as much as I spoil Pablo's my dog.
yeah, I remember that.
We got one person gives. I think that's the lady who said, right. No matter what you do, man, we could give out gold coins.
You gotta love the haters.
Josh is working along. What are you talking about? This ain't work. That's the thing. Josh, you're not going to give up your steaks for hot dogs. Yeah, that's probably true. What would I give up? I don't know.
Hey, I like Mark's approach. He tracks all his expenses using one credit card. That's not a bad approach, Mark. You can do that. Yep. It's easy. It's not hard.
Lillian, right on. Haven't seen you around these parts, Lillian, so welcome aboard. Timothy. Donna. Should I take $100,000 on my IRA as a CARES withdrawal to pay off my house? That's a tough one. Now you say pay off your house or pay it down, 2 completely different things. So what's
if you're only paying it down, I wouldn't do it because you still have your mortgage.
Yeah, 100%.
If you can pay it off entirely, it's just an arbitrage. What's your return on the IRA versus what's the return, which you just said 4.25%. If you can pay off a 4.25% mortgage, you're basically getting a guaranteed 4.25% return. That's pretty good in this environment. I'd probably do it if you're paying it off.
Yeah, I think
if you're not paying it off, now if that's IRA, that's taxable. For you to get that out of your IRA, you got to pay. Well, not CARES withdrawal.
Yeah, so 3 years you got to spread the tax.
But it's still But it's still taxable.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So your 100,000 is now,
but not penalized.
80,000 or whatever it would be based on your tax rate.
Yeah.
But if you can pay off your house with that,
I would. That 100%. I completely agree with that. That's a guaranteed 4.25.
Yeah, exactly.
You're probably not writing much of that off anything anymore because of the high standard deductions.
Yep.
I would, but with a caveat, of course, would be if that's your only if that's your only liquid net worth, you still got liquidity. I was talking to a guy the other day. He had what the hell? I forgot. Anyway, long story short, he was almost the same scenario, but he wasn't using the CARES Act. He was just going to spend like 75% of his liquid assets that have no mortgage. I said, I don't like that at all because
you got to have enough money. You still have expenses.
You still need liquidity. Yeah. You still need cash.
I don't have mortgage, but I got to pay health insurance.
And
I got to pay car insurance. I got to,
Well, my mom
utilities.
she has, probably $300,000 house in Virginia. And while she has enough income, it's tight, man. And you don't want to be, was it house poor? Is that what's called house poor?
House rich, cash poor.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
House rich. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And you don't want that.
Yeah.
If you can, hey, Deb, love seeing Fritz, the dynamic duo.
Thank you, Floyd. Glad to be here.
Who's, let's see, is that Robin and Batman?
Can I be Batman?
Yeah, that's right. So there we go. Choose FI. We talked about
Yeah,
that before. Choose FI. All right. So it looks like we're at the end of the comments. So Fritz, what, any thoughts, any else you want to add? Thoughts, questions, comments that jump out at you in terms of what you've seen so far for retirement?
I tell you guys, I don't know how many of you are retired that are watching versus just getting there, but it's a really, really enjoyable stage in life. If you're basically there financially and you're just kind of hesitant to make the jump, you're apprehensive about the softer stuff, make the jump. It's, once your numbers say you can get there, it is a great way to live life. Now, again, you got to plan for it. You got to really think through it. But I'm having the best years of my life. It's a great place to be, and it's fun interacting with folks like y'all on the call, on the comments here. I love the social interaction that all of us have have this interaction. You and me, right?
Yep.
You coming up here from Atlanta today to
and how did I met Fritz? I did a video on one of his blog posts, and I think
I saw it. Yeah.
And here we are. This is my second time up here. It's freaking awesome.
So find ways to connect with people, find common interests.
Actually, I was asking, elaborate on that, because I think a lot of people, that might not be something they talk about. Like, so, I mean, now you're in the woods in Blue Ridge, but you're still able to interact because of some interest that, through Jackie, through you, see what I'm saying? That is critical. Still have the community.
And one thing I would say too, if you're thinking about, we talked earlier about downsizing and moving to a cheaper area, it's great. We love it. But recognize all your friends are, at your work and near where you live today. So if you're going to move 100 miles away, that's 100 miles from Atlanta, you're not going to hang out with your Atlanta friends anymore, right? So if you can, try to spend as much time as possible in your retirement location before you retire and start getting engaged, do some charity work, get involved in different activities, get to know some people, so that when you move to the area, you're not starting all over. Now you just lost your job. You just left your job. So you've lost all that purpose stuff that we talked about earlier. You've lost all your friends. Sure, you're in a low cost area. This is great. Right. But if you're starting from scratch on all those areas, that's a big hill to climb. So as much as you can while you're still working, and it goes to the relationships, start building those retirement relationships. Like you and I consider you a retirement relationship. I didn't know you till I was retired. You can build new relationships, but you got to work at it. So.
What do you think about, anyone in like retirement 55 plus community? What's your takes on those? I have no idea, but
my uncle lives in one. He loves it.
Okay.
Definitely. If you want a natural forum for relationships, great way to go. Obviously we like the woods. We like, I don't like we talked about the HOAs. Yeah. I don't think I've ever paid an HOA in my life. I'm absolutely against them. And I'm sure there's probably not a 55 plus community that doesn't have an HOA, right? That's just that. So it's a question of your lifestyle. What do you want to do in retirement? But if you're looking for a ready-made community of like-minded people to do activities with, absolutely a viable option. Yeah, no doubt.
So your uncle likes it.
He loves it. Yeah, they love it. They really
I bet so many people from the villages, they freaking love it, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I think it draws a certain mindset. For me, I'm not sure. I don't know, but I'm like you. I kind of like I'm an introvert at heart, believe it or not. And I need my space without people saying, all right, so we'll get out of here just a second. I don't need anything to buy except some ribeyes. Yeah. Thanks for this, guys. You got it, Ray. Appreciate you giving us a heads up. My man, York, PA, maybe 1 year after this conversation, he might retire. Ray, thanks for giving us the heads up on your, or the props on your stuff through the university that you're using. Vino says he upsized. Wow. Miss MRG, 3 months retired from me with good quality life. By the way, women use the woods that way too.
We have a restroom over there, don't we? Yeah, we have
called a spruce or a pine tree. But here, I told you my story of going through. I was born and raised on an island in Maine. Did I ever tell you that?
No, I never heard that story.
So going from school to your house to change your, we used to have to wear your school clothes, and when you go play, you'd have to get out your school clothes. Right. Was Snake Alley, and Snake Alley is just kind of like this, you know what I'm saying? So you go from school to my house, and one time I had to go to the bathroom, but not the number one, if you know what I'm saying. I said, I can't make it. And so you had to use leads. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
That, my friends, is professionalism that you've come to expect. Talk about Snake Alley and Peaks Island, Maine, using leads. And then, of course, by what time I was done, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go play. And we used to have these corduroys and we go play football and stuff, and they get all grass stained.
Right.
And you only had one set, maybe you had two. If you're lucky, you had 2 sets of brand new clothes to start the school year, which have to last you through the year. And so if you got grass stains on, because you only had 2 pairs of pants, you know what I'm saying? So
exactly.
so everyone's like, you wore those 3 straight days. So you gotta be careful or else you'd be made fun of. That's what it's like growing up. The kids say, kids today, they don't understand though. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
When you're growing up, you're like, dude, you're just outside, you're getting dirty, you're freaking come back when the lights come on, the headlight or the
street lights.
The street lights come on.
The same way. Yep. Parents never knew where you were all day, and it didn't matter. You know, out exploring the woods, right?
Oh, dude, were you in a place
I
like
grew up in a small town in Michigan, southern Michigan. Lived in the woods.
Oh,
I was out there all the time.
man.
That's probably why I love it now. You know?
Yeah.
Small town, always had woods, lakes. You know.
Well, that's I love the ocean because I was growing up on an island. But see, I don't want to live in Jekyll where it's too. See what I'm saying? Like
it's packed.
I don't like that. So I love the ocean, but I also like the woods. So for me, I'm sitting there like, the woods are the ocean, but at the end of the day, there's only so much ocean and it ain't cheap.
That's true.
All right, my friends, I guess we're out of here. Thanks you all. Don't forget to buy Fritz's book. For those of you guys, the Retirement Manifesto, theretirementmanifesto.com, keys to a successful retirement. And if you do buy it, man, I cannot, and this goes to my books too. Yeah, right on. Yes, Kathy says yes. Stay out till the lights went on. No, thanks.
No phones. That's right.
Yeah, right on, vinyl. Those were the days, man. I tell you, it's nuts. Actually, I'm gonna post a video when I drove up here about something about kids. I think there's something that's gone awry in the brains of some young ones today, and I don't know if I like that. Actually, we'll see. But anyway. I do have some, anyway, what I say about the books, if you could put a review on there is incredibly helpful. I cannot stress enough. That's like Amazon SEO, search engine optimization. So if you do buy Fritz's book, and the same things with mine, you can put a review on there. Don't just hit 5-star. Great. I mean, you can, that's nothing wrong with that. But if you hit 5-star, if you can type in a little commentary, even just 2 sentences, you say, I go to Fritz's, the Retirement Manifesto blog is great. Something like that. Or I go to Josh's YouTube channel. It's great. Something like that I cannot tell you how helpful that is for the search engine optimization on Amazon. It's huge. And then of course, Fritz has a YouTube channel, The Retirement Manifesto. Seemed like I had something else. Oh, then tomorrow I'll be interviewing Sherry Peel Jackson. She's used to work for the IRS if memory serves. And she's here in Atlanta. I'll be interviewing her for a live stream. That will be at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. So be live, be there or be square. Sunday again at 7 p.m. will be a Q&A. I guess that's, and do you do any, you don't do any, what do you have any interviews coming up on a podcast or anything?
I had one yesterday.
Oh wait, you're on Choose FI.
You're on. I've been on Choose FI a couple times.
Right.
No, I'm around. No need to promote my stuff. That's fine. Cool. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all being here.
Josh. Appreciate you.
Right on, man.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Take care.